Do you feel like you got a second chance at life?
10 million. I should have died 100 times. Bro, I didn't want to do drugs. Dude, I was dope sick more than I was high. You know, constant withdrawals. I would meet a pretty girl and think she doesn't like me. I would go to a job interview and think they're not going to hire me. He said, when you got a year clean, your father banged on my door. He just got a year clean. He's doing so good, but if I let him know it, he's going to fuck it all up.
Holy shit.
Dude, I had 8 years clean. Imagine if 8 years went by and I had no idea that my father was so proud of me. It's been ingrained in me that when you do something like not by the book, it catches up with you anyways. Because I had taken all the shortcuts and it ended up being like long cuts.
Yeah.
Like there needs to be like a new word for millionaire. Because having 1 million is very different than having like 16.
How high were your revenues at it?
I think at one point we're doing like 25 million a year in revenue.
Wow. All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Miami Injury Lawyer Podcast. Today we have my good friend, Bryan Alzate, also known as Teddy Tarantino. And I've got to say, Bryan probably has one of the craziest life stories that I've ever heard just from normal conversation with him. So I asked him to come on the podcast and share it with you guys. So thank you for coming, brother.
Yeah, absolutely, bro.
Thank
it's crazy because I was thinking, like, I remember when we met at the gym in Weston.
Yeah.
And you had a Hellcat.
Yes, bro.
Yeah.
And that was right when I started my law firm.
Wow.
Right when I was becoming an attorney.
Yeah, I remember you had like your law firm on your Hellcat on the window and everything.
Yeah, do not rear end.
Yeah.
And all that shit. And then you had the F8 back then.
Yeah.
And it's crazy.
I think that's exactly when I had the F8.
It's crazy because I've known like so many people for so long, and now that I'm doing the podcast, I'm just inviting a bunch of them on, and it's like such a small community because I had like Timepiece Trading, obviously I had them on, them real well. I don't know if you know Mark from Horror Straps.
Yeah, I don't know him, but I know him.
But Straps, and it's like I realize like how many cool people I know. And it's just great that I get to have them on and they get to share.
For sure. And even like when I had my podcast, I'd have like lifelong friends on the podcast. And when they did the podcast, they would tell me stuff that I would be like, what? We've been friends for years. I never knew you grew up with horses or just something so weird and rare.
That's one of the best parts about it is you get to learn so much about people. But let's get right into it.
Yeah.
So you're sober for how long now?
16 years.
16 years.
16 and a half.
And you're not even that old. How old are you?
33.
33. Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty
that's crazy.
Pretty rare that someone has that much time.
Because
when you go to meetings, like having 6 years is a good amount of time. Having like 8, 10.
Right.
If you have like 10 plus years, you're considered like maybe like an old timer, 15,
Yeah. That's nuts. So what age did you start doing drugs?
So I said this on other podcasts and people were commenting like, no way. And I said like I started drinking like in kindergarten.
What?
And people were like, no, that's not true. And like, I didn't mean like I'm drinking every day in kindergarten. Like I got drunk for the first time. It must have been like kindergarten to first grade. It couldn't have been more than that because I moved.
Holy shit.
So, and what I mean, it's not like I was drinking in the gutter.
Right.
I was at a family party. In the Spanish culture, it's kind of normal for like a kid to drink a beer or something or try alcohol. I guess in my family, it wasn't that weird.
Right.
But I remember all the kids were playing in another room and I knew the adults were drinking. And I went and grabbed wine coolers and I started drinking the wine coolers because they looked like the most like fruit.
Yeah, they're like fruity drinks.
Yeah.
Like they're marketed.
And bro, I
towards
drank
kids.
a couple of them and I felt woozy. And I might have been like I thought it was funny that I was drunk and everyone in the party thought it was funny, but I was probably first grade, kindergarten.
That's crazy.
And then I was smoking cigarettes in 4th grade. And then I was smoking weed in 5th grade. And like in 5th grade, like, dude, I would buy rags and take the seeds out and like try to germinate them in my closet, like
in 5th grade.
Yeah. And I was like, then I found out like what crippy was. And then I was like,
what is that? I don't even know what that is.
So there's rags, regs is?
Right, yeah.
Regs
like
is like just trash weed. And then crippy is like regular weed without seeds.
Got you. Okay.
So then I realized like, oh, dude, I can't believe I've been smoking this trash. And then even in 5th grade, like I was very snobby. Like I was like, oh, I only smoke like fire bud,
In 5th grade.
Yeah.
Did you have classmates that were smoking as well?
So when I was in 5th grade, I also was starving for attention, insecure. Like when I tell people my story, it sounds crazy, but like now that I'm an adult, I see how like messed up it is that like a 5th grader is smoking weed. But I remember like I would be putting in eye drops in class so people could see like, oh, this kid's putting eye drops in. And I remember thinking like, oh, everyone's gonna know that I'm high, so I feel cool. But I've talked to those kids from that age, and they're like, no, we had no idea what eye drops even meant.
Dude, they were so young.
And
there was no like social media back then where kids
like,
knew this shit.
So there was this one kid on the bus, and he smoked weed because we talked about it a couple times. And then this one time he brought weed and he brought regs, and I just made fun of him and never talked to him again.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
In 5th grade.
Yeah. And then 6th grade, really into selling. Dude, I like became weed. I knew everything about weed. I was on all the websites. Like there was this website called like thisishowyoudit.com where it showed you how to make gravity bongs and all this stuff. And then
it's nuts.
Middle of 7th grade or maybe 8th grade, I get arrested with weed. And then when I get arrested, I start getting drug tested. And then I start doing coke because it comes out your system in 24 hours. Weed is like the worst drug to do when you're getting drug tested. So I started doing coke. And then I got totally into coke.
How were you affording this? You were, what, 12, 13 years old?
So at the time, I understood like buy in bulk and sell and make your money. You know, it's like I understood simple business.
Yeah.
So at the time, I would probably buy an eighth and I would skimp all these young jit kids. I'd be selling grams for like $40, you know?
Yeah.
And then, dude, I would buy rags, take the seeds out, put it in a orange so it smells fruity, and put a light under it, and it would like kind of crystallize. And I would sell rags for like, you know, be prices.
Yeah.
And then basically like I could steal money from my dad, $100, $60, $80, buy weed, sell some, and it would kind of last a while, and then I would just re-up. And you know,
that's nuts.
I was probably buying like eighths and quarters, but I was making it seem to all my older friends like I was buying QPs and pounds, you know? So like I always was like pretending to be something I wasn't.
Right.
If I didn't have weed, I would never say I don't have weed. I'd be like, oh, sorry, bro, I'm only doing pounds.
That's crazy.
In like 7th grade.
7th grade, 12 years old.
12,
13.
yeah.
That's crazy. Mm-hmm. So how old were you when you stopped doing drugs?
17.
You were 17.
I was a junior in high school. I've been smoking crack for like 3 years. I've been addicted to oxys and roxys for 3 years.
You were like in school, like functioning while doing all these drugs?
So I've always been like really smart and never had to study. I have a memory that like if the teacher says shit, like I memorized it. I didn't really need to study, and I would just get pretty good grades without. I just never did homework and never like had to study, but I would do pretty good just on my own.
Yeah.
But my parents were always like school, and like keep your room clean, and I would get in trouble. And dude, I was faking all my drug tests. In my 9th grade, my parents sent me to military school because I popped dirty for a drug test. That's where I got introduced to like Oxycontin. In
military school?
Yeah.
You got introduced to more drugs?
So I was selling coke. So I became like a major cokehead in 9th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade. Like, dude, I'm doing it in the morning on a Wednesday. You know, like
that's nuts. In 8th grade.
Yeah, bro. And
no one else your age was doing that.
No,
right? You were hanging around a younger crowd.
I was with. In 8th grade, my friends were seniors.
Okay.
And my senior friends were like, we're not talking to Bryan anymore. All he does is skeet. It's like, that's what we used to call it. Like, you're a skeeter, you know, like you just do powder.
My God.
But like, I remember in middle school, I used to go to high school parties, steal my mom's car. I would show up to party in a car.
Shit.
I remember I'd be wearing like Sean John. I had a gold chain. And I remember I used to go to high school parties, and I would serve up the high school kids. You know, I used to always share, like, dude, when I used to go to these parties, like, there'd be, like, a room where, like, the cool kids are, like, sold drugs. I would go and I'd be, like, able to get into that room. I'd be chilling there. And then I remember, like, some of the kids started to find out how old I was. And they're like, damn, bro, like, the plug is in middle school, you know? But usually I would lie about my age. Right. So I had people that had known me for 2-3 years at the time. 2 years. When you're a kid, that's, like, a long time.
Right.
And they just thought I went to a different school because I'm driving. So I've always been obsessed with cars. The first time I drove was in 5th grade.
You stole your mom's car in 5th grade?
In broad daylight. My mom was making breakfast. She had just got like this 99 like older Mercedes. And I remember I like went and I took the car and I backed up, and I didn't know that the car idled. So I put it in reverse and like let my foot off the brake, and I looked up and I hit the mailbox. And it was clear, like blue paint on the white mailbox, white paint on the blue car. And then I just drove around. And I went around the neighborhood and I parked it. And like, dude, I put the seat back exactly where it was. I put the volume back where it was. I put the radio station back where it was. And I put the keys back. And I remember my mom, like I ate breakfast. And then like an hour later, she came up to me. She's like, did you drive the car? And like, bro, in 5th grade, I was such a good liar. I remember looking at her offended that she would even think that I would do that. And I was like, you think I took the car? Dude, I was gaslighting before I knew it. Like, I was like, oh my God, that hurts my feelings. How would you think I would do that? Obviously, Sasha did it, my older sister. Like, what? You know, that makes me feel so bad about myself. Like, of course I didn't take the car. I'm in 5th grade. What? And my mom, till this day, was like, I know you took the car, you know? But like, that's how ingrained lying was into my,
oh my God,
at 5th grade, you know?
That's nuts.
So I've always been into cars. And then, dude, by 7th grade, I thought I had a car. Like from 11 o'clock, 11:30 at night to like 4 in the morning, I was driving.
Even your parents were sleeping or what?
My parents were sleeping, bro. And even if I had nothing to do, I just wanted to be out driving.
You just wanted to drive.
Bro, the first time I went on the highway, it was like fucking going to Busch Gardens. I remember I called my friend and I was like, bro, how do I get to your house? And he's like, print out the directions on MapQuest. And I printed out the directions and bro, it looked like Japanese. Like,
dude, that
I was
is
like,
nuts.
how, like turn left on this street and turn right. I felt like Indiana Jones, you know?
And then you got there?
Well, I remember he told me, he was like, bro, if you learn north, south, east, and west, you could get anywhere. And I was like, north, south, east, and west? What is that? And he's like, bro, east is towards the beach. And then he started explaining like 595 and 95. And it was so complicated, but like, dude, like addicts, if we like want to learn something, like we put our mind to it. And dude, like, I remember I started taking the highway and I started going far. And I was putting miles on the car, you know?
That's nuts.
And bro,
12, 13 years old?
Every time I would do it, I'd be like, dude, I'm getting caught. And I didn't get caught for years. And there were times where I would get caught. And then I would do it again, thinking they're definitely going to catch me, and they wouldn't catch me. And in my mind, I'm like, how are they not knowing that I'm taking the car? My mom would hide the keys, and then she would just put it like in another drawer, like 4 drawers down, you know?
Dude, that's nuts. You're never worried about like the cops pulling you over?
Dude, I got pulled over once. I got pulled over in like 7th or 8th grade.
13, 14 years old.
Yeah, dude, my lights weren't on. And I remember I was like freaking out. I couldn't figure out the lights. And I remember they pulled me over and they're like, what are you doing? And I was like, I went to the gas station to get cigarettes from my dad. And I'm like, dude, I just thought of that lie. He was like, why are you getting cigarettes for your dad? I was like, dude, he's sick. He has cancer. They're like, do you have a license? I'm like, dude, it's at home. I was like, he's sick. I swear I just like went out and got cigarettes. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, you got to be 18 to buy cigarettes. Like, I don't have my, you know? And dude, I was like, dude, I live right here. It was like right outside my neighborhood. Yeah. I was like, just getting cigarettes from my dad.
And you had the cigarettes with you, obviously.
No, I didn't have cigarettes.
You didn't have shit.
Maybe I had my own cigarettes. I don't know. I don't remember.
And the cops just let you go?
Dude, the cops was just like, okay, your lights are off. And I was like, all right. Dude, I was probably like 12. But like when I was 12 or 13, bro, people thought I was like, I could pass for 18.
Really? You had a beard or no?
I didn't have a beard. Maybe the way I carried, I just looked older, you know?
That is crazy. So you're using drugs from like 10, 11 years old to 17. And like, what happens that you stop? Because that must have been hard. Like, usually people start doing drugs at 17 years old. That's when you stop.
I mean, man, like I read the book Atomic Habits, and a lot of people like.
You read that when you were 17?
No, okay. I read it recently.
Okay.
That book came out
I was like, that's not that old.
So when I read that book, you know, it wasn't impactful to me because I had learned all that stuff in the 12-step program. Okay. So some people might think it's really impactful, but if you read that book, it talks about how like you can't change a behavior, you have to change your identity first. So I stopped. When you start identifying yourself as like someone in recovery, it's easier to like not do drugs because you're changing your identity. And the first thing you lose when you get clean is your identity, because like everything about you is about drugs. And now who are you, you know? So once you start identifying as like someone in recovery, it's a little easier. So like in the book, he talks about how like instead of saying like, I don't want to eat a salad, or I need to eat a salad, or don't eat a burger or something like that, like your brain doesn't work in negatives. So instead of saying I can't have pizza, you're thinking about pizza. Instead, you can say like, I'm a healthy person who eats salad. I want to eat a salad. I want to reward myself by eating a salad. So you kind of change the way you talk to yourself. But like when I first got clean, I never thought I would stay clean. No one thought I would stay clean. Dude, my dad told me, like, he disowned me. You know, no one in my neighborhood or my like high school thought I would get clean. But once I got introduced to the program and going to meetings, I had like this like switch flipped where I started to see people way worse than me, older than me, on drugs way harder. Like, you think my story's crazy? Like, bro, there's people who have been to prison for years, homeless, like women prostituting themselves, and bro, they're lawyers, they're doctors, they're nurses. So as a young kid, I started to see this, and it was like tangible evidence that if they could do it, I could do it. And I just started to rotate to something else. So like I always say, like, you can never get a toy out of a pit bull's mouth, but if you give it a juicy steak, it'll drop the toy. The drugs had become that toy that, bro, I didn't want to do drugs. Dude, I was dope sick more than I was high, you know, constant withdrawals from opiates, smoking crack. Like, I wasn't at parties anymore. I'm like pawning like a generator from the neighbor's house, like, you know, breaking into cars and just taking their change and going to Coinstar. Like, I didn't have like, it wasn't glamorous, fun, and cool.
Right.
You know, people, even other drug addicts were like, dude, get the fuck away from me. Like, I would go to someone's house and like instantly they'd be locking their doors, like putting their shit away, you know, and robbing all my drug dealers. I robbed every drug dealer I knew. So I used to have to pay people to go get drugs for me. Like, I couldn't even get drugs anymore. I needed to find someone to call them for me.
Right.
And then I had to break you off to go do it.
Right.
And then when you're going to go get the drugs, I can't be in the car because the guy will shoot me. So you need to drop me off at the gas station. And then you're probably going to rob me because you don't like me either, because everyone knows I'm a piece of shit. And like, I probably robbed one of your friends or something. So I need to convince you to give me your phone as collateral at the gas station. But then you got to call the drug dealer here. So that way you can, you know, you're going to need a phone. So it's like, dude, this is every single day. So I always say, like, bro, being a full-time drug addict is like an escape room every day.
That's nuts.
It's like you're just always on a mission for $22.
That's crazy. And you spoke about like people wanting to shoot you. Did you ever have near-death experiences?
I got jumped and like left in the Everglades once. You know,
really? Holy shit!
I had robbed this kid, dude, probably like $300, which at the time I was probably 17. He was probably like 20 or something like that. And dude, I robbed him. I got into a car chase, and it's kind of like a long story, but I remember, so I didn't have a car. So like my only hustle was that I was just the kid that would be down to do robberies or do anything, you know?
Yeah.
So I remember I had owed my friend money. So I was like, bro, take me to the Cinemark, the old Cinemark, Movico.
Yeah.
So like, take me to Movico. My boy owes me money, and I'll pay you the money that I owe you. He's like, okay. He doesn't know I'm about to rob the kid.
Oh my God.
You know what I mean? So he's like, you know,
you're
an accomplice.
robbing Peter to pay Paul.
So I remember he drops me off at the Publix, and then I walk over to the Little Caesars, and then this dude I've been warming up for like 2 months. So he's like, he sells pounds of weed. He like smokes, and he does like lean and stuff, but he doesn't do pills. But I'm middlemaning pounds of weed deals for him to build his trust. And I'm just waiting. Like, I will do this a couple times before I rob somebody. So I had done a couple deals with him. And then one day he called me and he wanted a bottle of liquid Oxy because he thought it was like lean. And I was like, yeah, I got you. Obviously I didn't have it. I just had got him to a point where he trusts me enough where I could kind of rob him and he wouldn't be on his toes so bad. And I had like a droplet of like some shit I took from my mom's like fucking medicine cabinet. It was like water. I put water in it, and then I put it in like a CD case, and then I'm carrying it, and I get in his car, and I was like, I've been telling him like, oh bro, someone just gave me fake money or something like that. Like, I've been making up stories to make him think like I'm on edge. I'm like, yo, let's do this fast. You know, I'm looking around, and he has like the money in his hand, and I was like, all right, give me the money. He's like, show me the stuff, and I'm like, it's in here. And I was like, give me the money. And then he's like, show me the stuff. And we just do that for a little bit. And then he starts to realize, like, oh, is this motherfucker trying to rob me? And then he's like, you trying to peel me, dog? You trying to peel me? You trying to peel me? And I'm like, nah, bro, someone gave me fake money before, da-da-da. Like, I just want to make sure it's real. He's like, give me that shit right now. Give me that shit right now. And I remember I was just like, dude, I was like, I don't know what to do. And I remember he's like, look, it ain't fake. It ain't fake. And he's like holding up to like the light. And dude, I don't know how, but I managed to like grab a wad of the money. And I was like, in my mind, like, how do you open the door? You know, how fast can I open the door? And I grab it and I open the door, and he didn't grab me or anything. I like couldn't believe I escaped.
Just ran out.
And I jumped out. And I remember there was like cars coming. I like skidded on like my knee. I jump over a bush. I get in my boy's car and I'm like, go, 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 go. And dude, this kid looks over at me and goes, Bryan, what did you do? I'm like, drive. And he was just like, dude, what did you do? I was like, go, go, go. And he was just like, left the car in park. I'm like, bro, what are you doing?
God.
So the guy comes around, he goes down like the aisle we're on. He gets on, he has enough time to get out of his car, runs up to the window and starts punching the window. And my friend is like, who is this? I'm like, dude, drive, just drive. God. So we start backing out. He gets in his car. We're like flying down Volunteer and like headed back to like Davie or whatever. And my buddy's tank is on E. And he's like, get the fuck out of my car. And I'm like, bro, just go to a police station. He's like, get the fuck out of my car. He doesn't even want the money I owe him. You know what I mean? Yeah. He's like, bro, just get out of my car. He's like, who is this? And I was like, don't worry about it. Like, just, I was like, dude, just, and I've been in speed chases before. So I'm like, bro, is this like your first time? You know, just drive, you know, go to a cop, go to a police station. What is he going to say? You robbed me for drugs. I'm going to give him fake drugs. Who cares? You know? So he's like running out of gas. So I call my boy, Jeremy. Shout out. This was like my one friend when I was using. I had two. And I call him, and I didn't call him to help me rob this guy because this is his friend that he told me not to rob. But now I'm in a position where I need to call him. Yeah. And we're driving by his neighborhood. So I was like, bro, I just robbed so-and-so. He's like mad for a split second. He's like, yo, that's fucked up. How much you get? And I was like, oh, it wasn't a lot. He's like, how much was you? I was like, dude, he's chasing us now. So he's like, oh, now you need me to save your ass. And I was like, yeah, you know, whatever. And he was like, I'll come get you if you buy pills off me.
Oh, my God.
And I'm like, of course I'm going to buy pills off you. Like, what do you think I'm going to do with the money? So I end up jumping. Like, I tell my friend to slow down. Like, Ryan, slow down. So he slows down, and I literally jump out of a moving car and dude, scuffed up, hit the grass. Like it doesn't, like your adrenaline, it just doesn't hurt. I don't know. Like in my mind, it didn't hurt. And I remember my boy.
Were you on like crack or something during this whole time?
No,
just sober.
Totally sober. Just dope sick. Just like withdrawing, looking like when you're withdrawing and money touches your hand, you're like you're good.
Yeah, you know? It's as much of a drug.
Yeah,
that's
bro.
crazy.
Like, just knowing that you have the money in your hand, you're like fucking like you just feel like you just like, you know, ate a sensu bean. But I remember my boy Jeremy was like, go down the street right before my house and I'll be there. I'm thinking he's going to be in his car or something. So I roll out of the car. I start running down the street. He's nowhere to be found. The guy starts turning and he starts following me and I'm running. And I'm like, where is he? And then I hear like this wah, wah, wah. And he's on like this ATV. And I'll never forget, I get on the back of his ATV and the road was a dead end, but there was like an ATV trail. Yeah. And we took off on the ATV trail. My friend Ryan ended up just, I don't know what happened with him. The guy didn't catch us. And then I get back in his car and he was like, all right, now you got to buy these pills off me. And I'm like, bet. You know, I thought he'd ask for some of the money or something. But then when he pulls out the pills, they're the white Roxys that I don't like. Those are like the generic ones. They just like make you itch. They're not as good as like, I have like a certain one. Like I'll be dope sick until I get like the 8215 Roxys or the melon crops. And I was just like, I'm not buying those. He's like, you said if I picked you up. He has a script. God. He has a script. So he gets like the cheaper one. Like the generic one's a little cheaper. He doesn't care. Like he doesn't think of that much of a difference. So I end up buying those white pills off him. But anyways, for months, this other kid is leaving death threats on my voicemail.
Oh my God.
Like, dude, I'm going to kill you. Mind you, there's probably 5 other people that I've robbed that are like drug dealers, you know, that are also leaving me death threats. Like I used to like getting high and then listening to the death threats on my phone. Like, I'm going to kill you, motherfucker. I know where you live. Texting me my address, telling me we're going to shoot your house up. And for months, he was one of the 5 people leaving me voicemails. I'm going to catch you one day, bro. You're so dead. God. 2 a.m, bro. You want to fuck with me? Da, da, da. And bro, honestly, I had learned that 99% of the time, no one does shit.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a tough guy,
All right.
but most people don't want, like, I'll get my ass whooped, like, anytime. You know, like, I'm down to do whatever. Most people, push comes to shove, they don't really want to fight, and they're not going to go to your house, you know? So,
fucking nuts.
Months later, I get into, this kid calls me who doesn't like me. And when he called me, I'm like, why is he calling me? He's friends with the kid I robbed.
Yeah.
You know? And he was like, yo, can you get me pills? And I'm like, why would I get you pills? You know? And he's like, I'll buy you one. I remember thinking, like, all right, come pick me up. I didn't think it was like a setup or whatever.
Yeah. But
I end up getting to the back of the truck. And the kid on the phone's not there, and it's 4 other kids I don't know.
Oh, shit.
And then I was like, where are we going? They're like, don't worry about it. And I was like, fuck. So we end up driving to like the middle of the Everglades. We pull up to like this abandoned house, and then another car pulls up, and it's the kid I had robbed months ago with 2 other kids. And then like they just took turns like beating the shit out of me.
They beat the shit out of you and left you for dead.
I don't know if I was dead. I like managed to run away.
Oh, okay.
But like, dude, I had my phone on me and I had money in my sock. They didn't even try to take. They just wanted to prove a point.
Yeah.
But like covered in blood.
Holy
like
shit.
Like bruised all over my ribs. Damn. And I remember when I was getting the shit kicked out of me, all I could think of was screaming, "I'm only 15. I'm only 15." But it's because like in my mind, I was still 15. I was 17. But when I was my whole life, like when I would get caught doing something, like I had robbed this one dude, like a scary ass dude. I had robbed him like $1,200 worth of Xanax, and he was gonna kill me, bro. Like a hood ass dude. And he found out I was 15, and he was like, "That motherfucker got me," you know.
Yeah.
So like a lot of times,
that was your cap. That was your cop out.
Being 15 I'd use that card.
Yeah.
So I started screaming, "I'm only 15," but I was 17.
Oh my god.
Like that's how messed up my brain was. Like you know, this girl I was just dating. Sometimes she would like wonder if I'm being serious. Like sometimes I don't know the months.
Yeah.
Because like literally when I was using, I didn't know the months. Sometimes I wouldn't know who the president was. So I didn't know what year it was. There was like years where I was clean and I would like not know the order of the months. I wouldn't know what year it was. I wouldn't know what holidays are on what months. It took like, and like that's basic stuff people know. But when you're on drugs, you just don't know those things.
Yeah.
And
that's nuts.
Yeah, so he ended up beating my ass. And I remember I made it to this guy's house and I knocked on the door and I wanted to ask if I could use his hose to rinse the blood off my face.
Holy shit.
And when he answered the door, he had his daughter behind him and he pushed her to the side. And I remember saying, "Yo, I got mugged. Can I use your hose?" And I'll never forget, like, bro, think about old Southwest ranches. This guy goes, "Get the fuck off my property."
Oh my God, dude. That is fucking nuts.
Yeah. So
that's a crazy story, man.
Yeah.
Well, thank God that, you're here to fucking tell it. Because
I mean, to me, like, yeah, that's a crazy story, but like,
that was just regular life.
That was another day at the office.
That was just another day. That's nuts. And then, as you said, you stopped using at 17. You completely turned your life around, seeing doctors, lawyers, entrepreneurs that turn their life around.
Yeah, man, it's crazy because it's like you'll go to a meeting and you'll see a guy who's in super good shape, good looking, got a pretty girl next to him, and you'll just be thinking like, there's no way he's an addict, you know? And he'll get up there, he'll get a medallion for 5 years, and he'll talk about, dude, I was smoking crack, homeless, eating out of the dumpster of KFC.
Wow.
You know?
That's nuts.
And you see stuff like that, and you're just like, dude, like people don't make stuff like that up. You know,
right.
There's no reason for him to, he's not getting an award. Right. He's not doing this to like get followers, right. You know? And I remember just being like blown away. And you would meet these people and they had pictures to prove it. They had mugshots to prove it. Like their stories all matched up. Like I'm a pretty good liar. So I know when someone's story isn't matching up. Right. And like I just could tell like, dude, this guy really was homeless, smoking crack for years. Yeah. And he pulled up in a nice car and it looks like he has it all now. Yeah. You know?
Do you go to those meetings now and try
for sure.
Yeah.
I still go. You know, some people like get clean and they stop going, but like for me, I couldn't imagine not going. Right. You know?
And do you think that like it inspires other people and it's going to help other people? Is that one of the motives of going?
That's probably like the last motive.
Oh, really?
You know, like when I go to meetings now, like my family probably likes to believe that I'm like all good, but when you start to go to meetings to motivate other people, that's when that's like probably like one of the first phases of relapse,
Mm.
you know, because it's like once you think that you don't have the disease, or once you think that you don't need to go, or that you're going for some other reason other than you still have it, that's like humility is like the foundation of like long-term clean time.
Right.
And humility is that I can't be saying, hey, you could relapse. I could relapse too. You know what I
Right.
mean? So it's like the humility is like, dude, I'm going to that meeting because I need a meeting.
Gotcha.
I'm not going there under the pretense of like, I'm going to go save everybody. And
Right.
some people do that. Like you could just
Yeah.
kind of tell. But like, in my opinion, like the people who stay clean long-term, they go because they need it. And if it helps somebody else in the long run, that's great. And
Right.
part of it is helping people.
Right.
But if you want to be in recovery long term, like your motive should be on yourself. Like
Right.
whenever I go to a meeting or I speak or whatever, it's always like, I need to do this. I need to be doing this. Not you need to do that. Whatever, you know?
You get clean at 17 and now like you're a pretty successful entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So now we got to talk about that.
Yeah. So,
Because you know, you fucking turned your life around. Like,
yeah, and it's a slow process. So it's like, dude,
so how did it all start?
I remember, like, honestly, bro, like when I applied for a job at Barney's New York at Sawgrass Mills Mall, and prior to that, I have worked like shitty sales job, like hourly, and like, dude, to me, Barney's New York was like a fancy store, even though it was like the outlet. It was like such a big deal,
Right.
and I remember like thinking they're not gonna hire me. Like I would go into every scenario. I would meet a pretty girl and think she doesn't like me. I would go to a job interview and think they're not going to hire me. I would go into every scenario thinking it's not going to work out. Even if they hire me, they're going to fire me. And that was the first time where I got a job. And I remember when I got the job thinking like, they just fucked up so bad. Like, why they hire me, you know?
Yeah.
And like my self-esteem was so low.
Right.
And then I had left that job. I worked there for a whole year. And when I left, I realized like I never took any sick days. I never like called out. Like I was a pretty good employee there. I like gave them a notice.
Yeah.
You know, like it's weird. You get off drugs and you just like do regular things, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and that's when I started to really think like I'm a good employee. Like I show up when I say I'm going to show up. If you ask me to do something extra, I do it, you know? And I started to work at like a treatment center at like a low level position. I also like interned at a law firm. I was going to go to law school.
Oh, wow.
And I started to get like self-confidence from meetings and like my recovery, because I was starting to become somebody in recovery where people are like, that dude's solid. He helps a lot of people. He that's where I got my self-esteem from.
Yeah.
And I learned that like self-esteem comes from doing esteemable things. I never did esteemable things. So I felt like a piece of shit all the time because I was doing piece of shit things.
Right.
But I started like chairing the meeting, putting the chairs away, making the coffee. And I know that it seems like trivial, like how did that make you successful? But like honestly, like my self-esteem was so low, I needed to start from like the bare like, minimum. And then when I started to meet, like my whole life, I was obsessed with cars. I didn't know this until like 2 years clean. I'd forgotten that I liked cars. Like that's how much drugs like messed with my brain. But I remember being a little kid and I would see a Ferrari and I would think about it for weeks.
I was the same way.
I'd be like, Mom, get closer to it. It's a 360 Modena. You know, I'd be like, oh my God, let me see. And she would get close to it and he would take off. And I remember just being like, what does that guy do?
Right.
You know,
like every time.
Dude,
how does that guy have that
like,
car?
What is he? And then it's like, where's he going tonight?
Yeah.
Where's he going tomorrow?
Yeah, let's follow him.
Yeah,
I want to see where he's going.
Like what other cars does he have?
Yeah.
Like I just was like, and I would think about all the times like obsessed with cars. And I actually grew up really materialistic, and like my addiction started from wanting to be the man and stuff like that. So when I first got clean, I stayed away from money. I had friends when I had a year clean that were making $2,000 a week doing sales. I was like, fuck no. I'm going to school. I was scared. Like, bro, if you give me $2,000 a week, I'll fucking kill myself.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't want to be around money. I knew that I could not handle money. My ego would go crazy. Like I needed to be broke.
Yeah.
I intuitively knew that, you know?
Yeah.
And there was times where, dude, people would offer me jobs and I was just like, dude, I'm happy with like my shitty car. And like, I was so happy. I was the happiest I've ever been.
Yeah.
riding the bicycle around and like having just enough money for Newports and like an energy drink.
Right.
Like I was my happiest going to my friend's halfway house.
Yeah.
Like I had to get good with myself before I could even think about getting shit, you know?
Yeah.
And then around like 5 years, it took me like 5 years for me to think like, maybe I could have money, you know? But like, because I see people at 60 days clean, like, I want to be rich like you. It's like, dude, at 60 days clean, I wasn't even think. I was like, how do you look in the mirror?
Yeah.
At 60 days clean, I was like, I want to know how to have a friend. I didn't have friends.
Wow.
For like 9 months of my first recovery, I felt like I had no friends.
Wow.
Like I remember I like when I started praying, I didn't even I didn't even believe in God. I remember praying to God saying, God, one day I want to have friends.
Wow. That's
like
crazy.
I didn't want a Ferrari.
Yeah.
I was like, bro, I remember I used to cry. I used to be in high school and I would see all the kids like pile up together and go to the beach. Bro, I would cry on the way home because I don't have no friends. You know, so like I didn't care about the Ferrari.
Right.
Like I wasn't thinking that. And I only say that because I have a Ferrari now and all this other shit. Like dude, I promise you, that's not like what I got clean for. You know?
Right.
And 5 years clean is when I started to think I could handle it. And I met this kid. He was like 21 years old. And bro, to me, he was filthy fucking rich at 21 years old, 22 years old. And I have never met or seen that. This is like before Instagram.
Right.
You don't meet 21-year-old rich kids.
Right.
And I'm talking about like rich. Like, I'm not talking, like to me, if you had the new Toyota Camry, remember like the bubble?
Yeah.
The bubbly one? Like to me, that was rich.
Right.
So he had a Z06, he had an old Range Rover, and he had like a Cadillac Escalade.
At 21.
At 21.
And he wasn't selling drugs.
No, dude, he had a motorcycle business.
Got you.
And he was making 160 grand a year when he was like 16 selling pocket bikes.
Wow.
Yeah. So he's my business partner now. So like when I met him, I started to really be like interested, but I also wasn't like obsessed with his money. Like I thought it was cool that he had cars because I like cars, but I wasn't like, oh, how do I get rich or anything? But we started to like become friends. And then I started like, he asked me if I could buy motorcycles for him. And I'm like, I don't know much about motorcycles or whatever. He's like, it's easy, whatever. So then I started like buying bikes with him. And he said, I'll pay you $100 a bike. He's like, how much do you make now? I was like, bro, I make $300 a week. He's like, you could buy 8 bikes a week easily.
But what do you mean by buying bikes?
So we would buy bikes and part them out on eBay.
Gotcha.
So we were one of the first.
You'd have to buy them like on like Craigslist?
Craigslist.
Okay.
I lived on Craigslist for years. So we were one of the first people to part out clean bikes. Most people would part out either stolen bikes or like junk bikes. Parting out, a lot of people would like think we're doing stolen bikes, but it's like, bro, we sell frames and motors with VIN numbers and serials. That's the most expensive part of the bike.
Right.
Yeah, you can make money selling stolen bikes, but it's all the other parts. Like you make most of your money back on the frame and the motor.
Gotcha.
You know? So one, I learned that he would never do anything shady. There was times where I would go buy a frame swapped bike. Frame swap means that, let's say the title says 2012, but the frames are 2015, or the fairings are 2015. The fairings are the plastics on a bike. So what this person did is they stole a 2012. No, they stole a 2015.
Yeah.
Bought a 2012 frame because it's the cheapest frame, and then put it on that bike, and that's why it has the new plastics. Because if you have a 2012 bike, you're not going to go buy 2015 plastics because they're probably like $3,000.
Right.
So I could tell that it was frame swapped. Mind you, when you swap a frame, no one's going to know.
Right.
Because it's coming with a title.
Right.
So that's what people do. They steal a bike and they frame swap it. So I remember pulling up to a bike and he's like, what's up with the bike? I'm like, it's straight. It was cheap, obviously, because it's stolen. And he was like, well, you're going to get it? I was like, I just want to let you know, I think it's frame swapped. He's like, why? I'm like, well, it's got like 2015 plastics to the 2012. He's like, yeah, it's definitely frame swapped. Walk away. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, walk away. And I was like, bro, nobody would know. And he was like, dude, it would fuck up my whole operation. It's not even worth it. And I remember thinking like, dude, it would be impossible to tell. Like the police could come and the title is going to match the VIN number. You couldn't tell.
Right.
Maybe you could tell with the motor, but people don't register motor numbers.
Right.
You know?
But for him, it was principle.
He was like, bro, I don't buy stolen bikes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's not. It's frame swapped. But it's stolen.
Right.
And I remember he was like, dude, walk away. 2, no friends. zero friends, zero social life. He was like antisocial as fuck. Some people get rich like networking. This motherfucker got rich grinding.
Wow.
Just 24/7, no parties, no alcohol.
Wow.
He just worked. And when I say worked, I thought I had good work ethic at the time because I could work 40 hours. I didn't know what it was to work 24 hours and not eat and just like not. I would be like, bro, we need to eat. And he'd be like, dude, we'll eat when we're done. I'm like, bro, it's midnight. He's like, we're not done. And I remember thinking like, bro, we just brought all the bikes to the warehouse. It's midnight. We could park the truck inside and I could unload it in the morning. We're not doing anything tomorrow. Why don't we just unload it in the morning? Unloading it's going to take 3 hours. And he would look at me and be like, that's why you're broke. Damn. You know, he would look at me and be like, that's why you're broke.
Damn. Was it just you and him at that point?
No, he had like 3 other employees, but like they had left for the day.
Right.
But it would be like he was.
You
like,
were different, yeah.
I was buying the bikes and I would bring them there. So a lot of times I'd show up at midnight and he would help me unload them.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, bro, I want to go to sleep. I've been working all day.
Yeah.
And I remember he would be like, bro, we're unloading the bikes now.
Wow.
And I'd be like, why? Like, it don't make no sense. But bro, he didn't leave anything for tomorrow.
Wow.
We're not doing this tomorrow. We're doing it now. Oh, the fucking trailer broke. We're going to call someone to fucking weld it right now. All the welding shops are closed. Oh, bro, I know somebody. I'll figure it out. And he would fucking weld it right there. The guy would be like, dude, you better not have nothing heavy on here. And I'm like, bro, they're fucking 300-pound bikes. It's going to be heavy. Dan's like, nah, it's fine. You know?
And how old were you at this point?
I was probably like 20. He was 21.
Okay. Wow.
So, dude, that's when I started to see like, bro, this guy just works. He bulldozes everything. And he doesn't leave anything unturned. He won't leave a stone unturned. He will check every little thing and he doesn't stop until it's perfect. Wow. His shop, we were at a little shop. We moved into this giant 14,000 foot warehouse, racks like 25 foot high, everything alphabetical order, everything from like Kawasaki's, Gixxers, 1970 or 1999 or 2000, everything like library.
Yeah.
And then, bro, the parts that sold last night, they would get printed out. And then he had employees with like ladders who would radio, this is the part I need. They would pull it. It would get all cataloged. It was flawless.
Wow.
You know, someone took pictures. He didn't just take pictures with like a shitty camera. He had a photo booth. We're like one of the first people to have like a photo booth pictures. And I was like, dude, like he's successful because when I go buy bikes from shops, there's shit all over the floor. It's disorganized. I'll never forget. I went to go buy front end from this guy. And I remember thinking like, why is he selling a front end? Because it's just weird to me. And I remember he has a motorcycle parts shop too. Because I would wonder, why does Damon make so much money and all these other people don't? Because I go to other shops. I buy bikes from them. And they don't have nice cars. And I'm like, maybe they just don't spend money on cars. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I remember I went to this kid's shop and it was so disorganized. I was like, bro, Damon would kill everybody. He would murder people if his shop looked like this.
That's crazy.
Then when I was like, why are you selling this front end? He's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, wouldn't you want to take this apart and sell it? He's like, nah, bro, that'd be such a pain in the ass. I'm just waiting for someone to buy the whole front end. And in my mind, I'm like, dude, if you took it apart, you would make so much money. And he's like, dude, if I took this apart, I'd have to ship this. I'd have to ship that. I'd have to do a new listing for this. So the front end of a bike could have 13, 14 parts. You got the forks. You got the wheel. You got the levers, the handlebars. You have the cluster. You have like the O-rings and all those little rubber parts and stuff like that. Damon would take that totally apart to the bolt.
Wow.
And he would do an individual listing for every single one, individual pictures for every single one. And then he would do the customer service for all of them. So each one, there's people calling and asking questions. Then the shipping is such a pain in the ass. You know how much you might lose on shipping because it's a fucking $12 part or something, whatever. Yeah. But he would just add the shipping into the cost and do free shipping. But he would just add the shipping into all of it. That's a lot of work. When this guy is just going to sell the front end for $1,200, but if he would have took it apart and did the work, he'd make $3,600.
Wow. And that was your first taste of real business.
That's when I was like, dude, it's not, because I used to think it was like luck and fucking, I don't know. I didn't know.
Right.
Like, how do people get rich?
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
And to me, it was like fucking like magic.
Yeah.
You know? You're going to get a Ferrari one day. Like,
Yeah.
it just didn't. But now I was like, dude, this guy has money because he does everything perfect and he doesn't sleep and he doesn't take no for an answer and he just gets it done. And he cares about every dollar. Like, I would be like, oh, bro, it's $5. He's like, how much bikes do we buy a year? I'm like, I don't know, like 500. He's like, what's 5 times 500? Like, damn, you know?
Yeah.
So you would think
Wow.
that, I made a post about this the other day. Like, you would think like rich people don't care about money. Because a lot of people make comments like, oh, they're rich, they don't care about $10. Nah, bro, that motherfucker cares about every dollar.
Yeah.
That's how he got rich.
Right.
You know? So I started to realize like he counts every penny. He's meticulous. And then I was still in school, and then I ended up dropping out of school because I couldn't think about anything but motorcycles. Bro, I lived, eat, breathe in motorcycles for 3 years. At my first 6 months, I'm like, dude, I'm just quitting school. And then that's when I started making like six figures. I think I was making six figures when I was like 21, 22.
Wow.
And if I was making 6, he was making 7.
Yeah. You were an employee at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we kind of had like a partnership.
Gotcha.
Like and at that time, like I figured out how to do an LLC. I opened up a bank account.
Yeah.
I would buy the bikes. He would buy the bikes off me. I would get a little bit on top of the bikes. Then I started buying bikes for like other dealerships.
Gotcha.
You know, so, you know, but I never had a non-compete, and I started to think I could do it myself. And I say this because I see a lot of people do this. Like, I would never do something behind his back. And I remember thinking like, dude, I want to open up my own shop, because I know I could make 7 figures if you can,
Right.
you know? And dude, he got so mad at me and was like, I taught you everything and all this stuff, but I was man enough to say it to his face,
Right.
you know? And I remember he was like, dude, just chill. We'll do something together later. And I'm like, you know,
Yeah.
I don't, you know, like, I
Yeah.
don't know. And he was like, dude, what do you want more money for? You know, like, you know how people do, like, you don't need more money. You got, you know, and I remember being like, bro, I want a GTR. Like, I don't care about money. I just like cars.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So I remember he was like, bro, just chill. And he ended up selling that business. And then we partnered on like all the rehabs. And he had to make back 1.5% on his money before I would start making money. So he took a huge risk on me too, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember his employees being like, bro, you trust that kid? He used to smoke crack, you know?
It's crazy.
And bro, he used to tell him like, because he just met me. It's not like we were friends for years. He met me on a fucking cruise.
That's how you guys met.
Yeah, we met on a cruise. I literally I literally met him twice in person, and had met him for like a month before I started working with him.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I went to his house, he handed me 60 grand in cash, and he was like, that's to buy bikes.
And he trusted you.
I was
How did you
like-
feel?
I was like bro, I had never seen a comma in my bank account other than when I get financial aid. I hadn't, even in all my drug years, I think the most money I ever saw was like $1,600.
That's crazy.
That was for like a QP, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, I remember like 60 grand in cash. And
Did you realize that you changed when when he handed you that, and like you wanted to, you didn't have a temptation to steal it?
so that was so far removed.
That was so far.
That was so far
already
removed.
so far.
Dude, I would chop my dick off before I stole that money.
Yeah.
Like, I had taken so many shortcuts my whole life. I had learned, and it's been ingrained in me, that when you do something like not by the book, it catches up with you anyways. Because I had taken all the shortcuts and it ended up being like long cuts.
Yeah.
You know, I had cut every corner and they'd only got me back to where I started and even further behind. So at that point, I would never, ever steal, like, in a million years. Like, I also believe in karma. Like, dude,
Yeah.
when I was dope sick, shitting myself in the hospital when I got clean, I'm like, this is what I get for being such a scumbag.
Yeah.
You know, I remember like crying, bro. My first year clean, hysterically crying all the time, no friends, like wondering like what the hell like is happening to my life.
Yeah.
And I remember just thinking like, this is what I get
Yeah.
for being a piece of shit, you know?
Yeah.
By the time I had 5 years, I did not think that, I never once thought to steal that money. And I think that's why he gave me that. So you asked me like, how did I get successful? I first became a person that another successful person would be like, dude, I could trust that person.
Yeah.
I became the type of person where other people would be like, bro, he doesn't have money now, but like, dude, if you gave him money, he would fucking figure it out and he would never fuck you. So I became the character that it takes first. And also, like, I see a lot of podcasts talk about like discipline. Like, I was also in great shape at the time. Like, dude, I was in phenomenal shape.
Yeah.
And not for nothing, but like I learned discipline. And so I might not have had a business,
Right.
but I tell people all the time, like, if you don't have a business, you need to be practicing the principles that a business takes.
Yeah.
So you need to be practicing discipline and self-accountability. You need to be practicing those things, whether you have a business or not.
Right.
So that way, when that opportunity comes, you have it.
Right.
A lot of people want those, like, oh, well, I would do that if I had that job. And it's like, bro, you work at Dunkin' Donuts. You should be the fucking man at Dunkin' Donuts.
Right.
You should be staying late at Dunkin' Donuts. You should be going in early at Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah.
Bro, when I worked at Barney's, New York, the outlet, I would go in early. I would feel so bad if I was late with the key and I was 2 minutes late for opening. Like, dude, my shit was organized. Like, I treated everything I did as if it was $1 million job.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And then that's what led to it. So he sells the motorcycle business, right? If you're comfortable answering this, did you get a portion of that as well with the sale? No. Okay. So then you guys open up a rehab clinic. Was that partly because of your past?
So,
or how does that come around?
You know, a lot of times I tell people, like, you should do what you know.
Yeah.
So that's the only business I know. And honestly, I don't even know a lot of it at the time.
Were you in a lot of clinics when you're getting clean?
No, I went to one state-funded one that was like garbage. But I had worked at one at a low level.
Right.
And I knew that guy was making a ton of money.
Gotcha.
So but I only worked at the lowest level. But honestly, that's probably where I learned how one should operate so well. But I didn't know anything. I didn't know the marketing. I didn't know the compliance. I didn't know the billing. I didn't know how insurance reimbursed. I didn't know anything about the medical field.
Right.
Mind you, I'm getting into the medical field. I'm 25 at the time.
Wow.
You know? So it's like, dude, he took such a risk. At the time, I was like, yeah, bro, just give me the money. But
that's where it starts with self-belief, man.
He just believed in me, bro.
Yeah.
And like, he was like, it was crazy. And we ended up running out of money. And then we had to call my other partner that we have now, is a friend of mine. And he put up money too. But like, dude, he didn't get like a crazy amount for selling that business. He basically lost almost every dollar he got from that business. So imagine you sell your $1 million business.
Yeah. And
he sold it for cheap because I was begging to leave. So he was like, dude, I'm going to lose Bryan. I'm going to sell my business for like 20% of what I could probably get if I waited, because this guy wants to leave because he says he has a better business. And then 6 months into the business, I lost every dollar.
Holy shit.
You know? So it's like, sometimes people like stress out. Like, you ever be dating a girl and she's just like stressing out about like
small shit.
You know, her babysitter job got canceled or something, you know? And I'm like, bro, I've been, not only have I been through like stressful scenarios in business, bro, I've been smoking crack in a porta potty.
Yeah.
With a candle, you know? like I've been in stressful scenarios.
Yeah.
Like it takes a lot for me to lose my cool. And even then, I wasn't really freaking out. I was like, I'm doing everything I need to do. I don't know. It might be a little longer till that profit rolls in, you know? And we got another business partner and he matched him on his. And dude, thank God, like 2 months later, it started turning a profit. Wow. But like a lot of people see businesses and it's like, dude, you didn't see when this guy had, you know, $3 million and then lost it all. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you didn't see when like, dude, we didn't know how to pay payroll. You didn't see how, dude, other treatment centers were laughing at me. Like, oh, dude, this kid's 20. And mind you, at the time I did social media, I had a meme page. So a lot of people knew I had this meme page called Sharing Needles. And I would just make memes and post memes. Yeah. And Pokemon cards and like dumb shit. And mind you, there was people like, dude, the meme kid opened a treatment center.
That's crazy.
Isn't he like 25? Mind you, at the time, bro, people who own treatment centers like in their 40s came from real estate or like big business people and like serious people. In my mind, I would meet them and be like, dude, this guy's talking gibberish. He would say like pro rata. I'd be like, whoa. You know? I remember this guy was like EBITDA. I was like, what's that? Fuck is EBITDA? You know, I remember, and you just sit there like you don't want to ask what EBITDA is.
Right, you don't want to sound like an idiot.
Dude, they're talking about like, overhead. I didn't even know what overhead was. I'm like, dude, what the
Looking
ceiling?
up.
Dude, I'm like, oh, the overhead. I was like, what the, but I didn't know any of these
That's
terms.
crazy.
Dude, I was just like,
You just knew you could figure it out.
not even.
You were just going day by day.
I was like, dude, there's a time where I was like, damn, this shit looks hard.
Oh my
Bro, I
God.
remember this guy showed me his lab, and I remember being like, what? Dude, it was like a clean room, people in white coats, giant machines, stuff going up and down, like all this crazy stuff. You had like
That's
12
nuts.
scientists in there. They had like freezers where they keep all like the reagents and stuff. And it's like where they do all like the drug testing. And I remember he was explaining it to me. And I remember looking at him and being like, this is crazy, bro.
You're like, how the fuck am I gonna
Like,
figure
dude, it
this?
took me a while to figure out like the difference between a Kawasaki and a Gixxer, And bro, 4 years later, that company goes out of business, and I have my own lab.
That's nuts.
Not
What is that
just-
lab for? Drug testing?
Yeah,
It's a drug
toxicology. It's like toxicology, and we do hematology.
Wow. You guys own that now?
We got rid of it because like it just doesn't reimburse like
Yeah.
good. But for a while, like dude, we had our own lab, and it was like, dude, like being like a kid who used to smoke crack to like having like lab, and not just that, like I stole some of his employees, and
That's crazy.
dude, he ended up going to jail and stuff. So it's like I didn't really care, but like.
Yeah.
Like a lot of these guys who I looked at as like the pinnacle of drug rehab, and dude, they were like smooth talkers, and they had private equity funding them. Dude, they end like my friend refers to them as like evil nerds. My friend was like, bro, they're just evil nerds because like, dude, they ended up doing a lot of fraud.
Yeah.
All went to jail.
Wow.
Shut down. Some of them like left the state. And dude. Like one, because of my recovery, but like two, because I met Damon. Like, dude, we refused to do anything illegal, and it's like, dude, you're competing against people who don't really care.
Yeah.
To them, it's like they probably done so much Medicaid fraud that they're like, oh, we'll just pay the fines.
Yeah.
That's kind of how some people are in the medical. Dude, the medical field is brutal.
Yeah, I've heard.
So, we refused to do like anything illegal or anything like unethical, and at the same time, it's like, bro, I'm hiring people that saw me get clean, so I'm definitely not doing something shady, so I'm going to tarnish my name.
Right.
I'd rather go broke than be like ruin my reputation.
Right.
This is not just a business to me. It's like my life. It's like my whole life.
Of course.
Of
course.
And dude, we like expanded and grew, and dude, at one point we had like 220 employees.
Wow.
So
That's crazy.
Yeah, bro.
How high, if you're comfortable sharing this, how high were your revenues? Like, did you get to?
I think at one point we're doing like 25 million a year in revenue.
Wow, that's nuts.
And dude, and I was probably 26, 27.
Did you? I don't know if your relationship with your parents, but did you ever tell your parents the kind of money that you're making? I mean, I'm sure they saw.
Dude, my parents thought I was loaded when I was doing the motorcycles.
Really?
Dude, I was doing the motorcycles, and like, mind you, like, dude, me and my dad had like the most toxic, sick relationship. Like my first year clean, I used to say, God, if you're real, kill that guy.
Wow.
Dude, I hated him, dude.
Yeah.
He used to make fun of me. He's like, this guy doesn't even drink. This guy goes to those fucking dumbass NA meetings, making fun of my meetings. Oh, you're going to go to another meeting? Oh, you're brainwashed.
Oh, my
And like,
God.
just be a man. And like, pushing me on, dude, there's time. And like, mind you, I'm my first year clean, dude, I was still stealing.
Yeah.
So when I'm stealing, he's like, well, you're getting high.
Yeah.
And I was stealing for like money for haircuts and clothes.
Yeah.
Because I had such low self-esteem. I didn't think I was even worthy of asking my parents for clothes. Like I'm such a scumbag in my mind that I'm like, I'll just steal the money. I'm like so embarrassed to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they probably would have gave me the money, but
Of course.
I'm
yeah.
just, man, I was such a liar and a thief that like, to me, like, why don't I just take it?
Right.
He won't know.
Right.
And I would get caught stealing, and he would swear that I was using, and I'd like drug test me. And I remember he would be like, dude, you fake all your drug tests,
Yeah.
And it was just true, so I was
Yeah.
like, I don't know. But like me and my father had such like a horrible relationship, dude. I never thought like I would have 20 Ferraris before me and my father were ever friends.
Wow.
Like I did not, having a bunch of cars and being a billionaire was more attainable than me and my father being in the same room,
Yeah. Yeah.
And dude, when we like mended our relationship, there was times where, dude, I remember I bought a truck, and he's like, whose truck is that? I was like, it's mine. He's like, who co-signed for you? I was like, nobody. He's like, who took you to go buy that? I was like, dude, I bought it. What do you mean?
That's when you were in the motorcycle business.
Yeah. And then, dude, like 6 months later, he's like, what truck is that? Well, that's a different truck. He's like, when'd you get that? I'm like, I just got it. He's like, what happened to your last truck? I'm like, I sold it. He's like, why'd you sell your truck? I'm like, I was putting a lot of miles on it. And then he'd be like, you know?
Yeah.
And then like, dude.
Just confused.
And then like, dude, I was making money. And I remember I showed up to the house. And dude, my whole life, I always felt like my father never said good job. Like my whole life, I feel like my father never said, I'm proud of you or whatever. When I was vice president of student government at my college. And I remember this plaque came in the mail and he handed it to me. He's like, hey, you got this in the mail. And he looked at me and goes, how come you're not the president? And he walked away.
Oh, God.
Bro, I have like 2 years clean, right?
Oh.
And I go to my room and I cry like I'm 12 years old.
Yeah.
Dude, crying into my pillow, punching the bed. Just like, dude, I've been clean years.
Yeah.
And this guy can't, you know, say, I'm proud of you, good job. Like,
Yeah.
you know? And I'll never forget, I walked into my house. Dude, I had grills. I had my golds on. I had a gold chain. I had $1,000, what were the shoes? Giuseppe's, you know? I had like $1,000 shoes on. And I'm sitting down eating dinner. And my dad's refusing to eat. And I'm eating. And the whole table is looking at him. And he's just staring at me. And my dad looks at me and goes, how much fucking money are you making? I was like, excuse me? And he goes, how much fucking money are you making? And I was like, I don't know. And he goes, a man should know how much fucking money they're making. And I was like, I don't know. I think I make like 6 figures. He goes, 6 figures? That's it? And he starts cutting his steak. And he goes, you should be making 7.
Oh, my God.
But he was joking. And that when he said that, I was like, dude, this guy loves me. Like he was saying that as like, I love you, you know,
Yeah.
like you're doing good.
Yeah.
And he's like, he's joking. Like, you make 6 figures, you should be making 7.
Yeah.
You know? But in his mind, he was just like, okay, he's doing good now.
Yeah.
I'll share this. When I had a year clean, my father, I asked him to go to a meeting with me. And dude, he refused to go. He was like, I don't want to go to that dumbass meeting. Like, what the fuck would I do there?
Yeah.
He was like embarrassed, you know?
Yeah.
And dude, I remember being so sad and all this stuff. And when I had 8 years clean, I'm already a treatment center owner at this time. I'm already like successful. I'm going to go speak at this rehab. And when I walk in, it's like a county run place, 70 people there. I walk in, this guy runs up to me. It's the cop from down the street who has grown up with me my whole life. He's like, what the hell are you doing here? I'm like, oh, I'm speaking tonight. He's like, you're the speaker? I was like, yeah. I was like, what the hell are you doing in here? And he's like, oh, I got caught drinking on the job. It's nothing, you know? And when I start telling my story, he's like laughing at all these parts about my dad, you know?
Yeah.
And he raises his hand and he goes, I got to tell you something. He said, when you got a year clean, your father banged on my door and I opened it and he goes, hey, it's Bryan. And he goes, what's the matter with him? Is he okay? He goes, he's better than okay. He just got a year clean. He's doing so good, but if I let him know it, he's going to fuck it all up.
Holy shit.
Dude, I had 8 years clean.
That's crazy.
Bro, it took me...
I just got chills.
Imagine if 8 years went by and I had no idea.
Oh, my God.
That my father was so proud of me secretly.
Yeah.
But he didn't want me to like think that...
He didn't want you to get too cocky.
Like I had it already, you know? He was just always... And that's kind of how... Sometimes as a boss, I'm like that. You know, like I've had employees who, bro, I just shit on them constantly. But when they're not around, I'll be like, bro, that Mikey, he's the fucking man, dude. That guy will fucking do anything. But when he's around, I'm like, bro, you suck. You're trash. You're lazy. This is why you fucking ruining the company, you know?
That's nuts.
And sometimes I just do it to like, I don't know, maybe I get it from my dad.
Yeah.
But, you know, I had to be like, you know, people like to be told they're appreciated too.
Yeah,
you know, it's like this weird thing.
Balance.
Yeah, you know?
Wow,
but
that's nuts. Did you make amends with your dad before you were 8 years clean? Yeah.
Yeah. At that point, me and my dad were really cool. But it wasn't until that point where it came full circle when I was like, wow, the cop that lived down the street from me is in a rehab that I'm speaking at.
That's nuts.
And he's telling me this story of how my dad knocked on his door and had a year clean.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
You were in shock, probably.
Yeah, bro. It's still like one of the coolest moments of my life.
Of course.
You
Wow.
know?
How's your relationship now with your dad?
Dude, me and my dad are like so close. It's so funny because when you get older, when my parents got older, my dad has become so soft. Like, dude, he's emotional now.
Yeah.
He's like crying about stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like I make jokes about putting him in an old home and he's like, you wouldn't do that, would you? You know, like my dad he's no longer like this angry enforcer of the family that he always was.
Right.
And now that I'm an adult, I'm like, bro, if my 14-year-old was smoking crack, I would be losing my mind.
Oh my God.
Could you, bro? There was times when my dad had lost his job and he went to go to a job interview and he didn't have money to put in the gas tank because I had taken his last $40.
And you were probably driving the car around. And that's why it was on E.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like smoking crack in his car.
Oh my God.
You know, dude, my dad lost everything in the 2008 recession.
Really?
So like my dad has like had it all and lost it all.
Yeah.
And then during the recession, he lost all his real estate and all his like investment properties and his son's on crack and fucking Oxycontin, you know? But like, dude, now I'm just like, wow, I'm just like him. And I read this book, like the 4 Agreements, and it talks about like, I can't be mad at someone for teaching me something, for not teaching me something they weren't taught. So it's like, dude, my dad grew up with an alcoholic father. He's from Medellin, Colombia. He literally lived in a house with a dirt floor. Like my father grew up without electricity on some days.
Wow.
So like he grew up so poor. He doesn't know what love and compassion is. He doesn't know about mental health.
Yeah.
He's from a third world country and like came here and busted his ass and has no idea why his spoiled brat kid is on drugs.
Yeah.
You know, so like now, like I really have such a bond with him. He's like my favorite person. Like,
Right.
dude, I
That's
love
awesome.
my father.
What is his reaction now to all the cars? Because to give everyone a background on like the cars that you have, the cars that you've had.
Yeah, I've had I thought I was the richest person in the world when I bought an R35. When I bought an R35 GTR.
How old were you?
Probably 25, 26.
Okay.
When I was 26, I bought an R35, dude. It was like, dude, I used to go on YouTube when I used to work overnight shifts and watch the same YouTube videos about that car for hours.
Yeah.
You know, I would just I had a Nissan Maxima and I would be shifting in it.
Like it was a GTR.
Like it was a GTR. I would be looking at the key like, oh, it's probably like the GTR key. You know, like I would go to the dealership and be like, can I sit in it? And they're like, no. Like they don't let you do anything with GTRs at Nissan. They're like super
because
weird.
that's their golden goose.
So, you can go sit in a Ferrari, but dude, you go to Nissan and you're like, hey, can I look at the GTR? You're like, what's your credit score?
Yeah.
You know, you could go be like, hey, can I test drive the Huracan? They're like, sure, whatever. Like
Literally, that happened to me.
Yeah, bro. Like, dude.
I was in shock.
At Lambo, they don't care, but like, dude, at Nissan, bro, don't touch their R35, you know? So, dude, when I got that car, I thought I couldn't believe it. Even when I got the Maxima, bro, when I bought a Nissan Maxima with leather interior, dude, I almost cried, like just thinking that I have a car with leather interior and a backup camera. And when I got the R35, I was so happy. I had an R35 and a CLS, and then I had the G-Wagon and the 570S. And then I had...
That's when I met you with the 570S.
With the 570S, right? So I had the
the Nickelodeon one.
Yeah, I wrapped at Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
That was cool. And then I had... I buy the F8 after that. And then I had the Ghost. So at one point I had the Ghost, the F8, the SLS. I don't know, SLS. You remember my SLS?
No, the Goldwing? I didn't know you had one.
Yeah, I had a Goldwing SLS. I had a 7 Series, and I had the S-Class.
You had all those at the same time?
Not the 7 Series and the S-Class. I swapped out the 7 Series for the S-Class. But at one point, when I met you, I had the F8, the SLS, the S-Class, and the big giant truck. You remember my big lifted truck? And I had the big lifted truck.
Holy shit.
But since then, I've always had like 4 cars. And then since then, I've had a Huracan. What else have I had?
Yeah, the Huracan got rear-ended.
Yeah, I know, dude. It was the worst, dude. I literally just put like 40 grand into it and someone rear-ended me. But, dude, I've had every car I've ever even dreamed of. Like, it's crazy.
And your parents, like, what their reaction to it? Because if he was tripping about your,
dude,
like,
my dad,
your trucks.
My dad, I don't even know what he thinks. I think he thinks like I sell drugs. Like he just doesn't understand. My dad is just like, how much is this car? I'm like, I don't know, like 370. 370 grand, you know? Like he just doesn't. Dude, my father can't understand, but like I'll tell you something. Like, dude, my father is so proud of me today.
Right.
People will come over to the house and they'll be like, oh, how's your, kids? And, my dad's friends will be like, oh, Brittany's a doctor, Alan's in law school. And my dad would be like, come over here. He's like, Bryan, come over here. He's like, bro, this kid used to smoke crack. He's like, bro, this guy. He's like, honey, who grabbed my mom, like, all right, tell him about the time we caught him taking the TV.
My God.
Like my dad loves telling people that I'm in recovery. Like he just thinks it's so. I hired my dad at one point, and he would listen to the calls, and dude, my dad would come home in tears. He'd be like, Bryan, we got to help these people. You wouldn't imagine how many calls we get. I'm like, I know, it's really sad. He's like, I had no idea. And then he started to meet the employees, and he's like, did you know everyone that works there is an addict? I'm like, no shit, dude. And he's like, oh my God, so-and-so, they have a crazy story. They're in jail. I'm like, I know. And he just like, he can't believe it. He's like, crazy. Oh my God, bro. It took like 8 years. But I remember at 8 years, my dad was working for me. And now he's with all these recovering people, right?
Yeah.
And it's like Sunday brunch. And my mom was like, anyone want wine? And my dad's like, you can't have wine at the table. Bryan's here. Bro, for years, my dad didn't care if there was alcohol. Yeah. He would be trying to get me to drink.
You're right.
Right. So it's like, dude, it took 8 years. But now he's like, oh, no, Bryan can't be around alcohol. He's in recovery,
That's nuts, man.
So it's like, dude, my dad gives me all my medallions. Me and my dad are so close. It's crazy.
That's awesome. And how do you think that going through all that as a kid, because you were a kid when you were using drugs.
Yeah.
How do you think that's impacted like your business life, and how have those things translated? Because I'm sure it has.
So one, I never had a childhood. So it's like, dude, I remember being in middle school and seeing kids my age on a bike and being like, "Well, you guys are on bicycles? Like you're not even for leisure, like for fun, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's just weird. I have friends who drive. Like I'm driving. I wouldn't be caught dead on a bicycle.
Yeah.
And it's like, bro, I remember when I got clean, one of my assignments was to like reconnect with my inner child, and I bought rollerblades. Bro, I was like 25 years old at the time. I bought a pair of rollerblades because I used to skate, like inline skate. Yeah. And I would go to the skate park at 25 years old and go skate, and it's like the Pokemon cards and like a lot of the other things that I do. Like I'm all into like anime and shit. And it's like, bro, as a kid, I used to think those were like nerdy, childish, weirdo things. Like I would never think to be into those things.
Right. Right.
So it's like as an adult, I've got to reconnect with like my inner child and stuff like that. But I think that because I got clean young, I also had so much time to invest in self-development. So a lot of times when people get clean, like at 25 or 35, bro, they have a mortgage to pay, they have a family. They don't have time to go to 2-3 meetings a week. Yeah. Bro, when I had 2 years clean, I like got reawoken to like, I could do anything. I could go start taking karate classes and learn karate. Like I can travel the world. I can read books and learn things. Like I just didn't like, I don't know. It took me years to really think that like, dude, I'm living on earth. I could go do anything. Like if this was Grand Theft Auto, would I just like sit at home all day? I could go and do anything. Yeah. And that's when I started reading and like doing yoga. And my first 5 years clean, dude, I devoured every self-help book. I did tons of yoga. I was in a serious committed relationship. Like I never cheated, like I really walked like I wouldn't go to bars. I wouldn't go to strip clubs. Like, and I say that because people see my lifestyle now and they might think it's like crazy and think that like that's okay for everybody to do. And I'm not saying it is or it's not, but my first 5 years clean, dude, I walked a thin, small line. I went to meetings. I hung out with my recovery friends. And I read books, and like that's
it was a lot of work
for sure.
It was a lot of work. And then, but going back to the question, do you think some of those qualities of addiction, quote unquote,
for sure,
translated into business, and that's part of why you have this success?
So I think that any addict has a tenacity that is unmatched. Yeah. So like, dude, when I wanted to get crack, I wasn't like, I don't know, it's kind of late. Like when I wanted to get high, I was never like, oh, well, no one's answering the phone. It's like, dude, you have this innate ability to figure it the fuck out. And you can't teach that to somebody. Right. Like, bro, I've had employees where I'm like, yo, this needs to get faxed by 5. They're like, okay, Bryan, they're working on the fax machine. And then I'm like, dude, 5 o'clock. They're like, don't worry about it. It'll get done. Later that day, I'm like, yo, I hate tasking somebody with something and they don't tell me that they did it because I'll think about it all day. If I ask you to do something, I need to see done.
Right.
Because I'm thinking about it all day.
Right.
And I'm like, did you do it? She's like, no, they didn't fix the fax machine. I'm like, why wouldn't you go to FedEx?
Yeah, just figure it.
She's like, I could have went to FedEx. I'm like, you could have used your phone. You could have faxed. It's 2025. You could have told me, hey, I would have done it, you know? And it's like, I don't know. Like when I was using, there was just things that I had learned that were innate that were like, dude, if you can't get there, you walk.
Yeah.
Like if you don't have a ride, you walk.
Yeah.
If you don't have money, you go do something. Like you figure it out. So it's like, I think a lot of those things, like, you know, I learned margins, you know, like I learned how to cut something. I learned like how to talk to people. Cause dude, a lot of times, like, dude, you have to be social to gain people's trust. Yeah. And like you do learn like sales and stuff, but I also worked, one of my first jobs ever was in like a call center. And dude, it was doing like probably like hundreds of automated outbounds a day, calling for donations for the police athletic league. And it's like, dude, people think like sales jobs are hard where you're getting like 20 calls a day. Dude, I used to call hundreds of people a day on an auto dialer to get $20 donations, $30 donations, not commission based. Which now I'm like, what type of sales job is not commission based? So I'm on a non-commissioned $8 an hour sales job, you know, and you know, I learned how to talk to people and I learned how to be charismatic. And I ended up being, I was like one of the top salespeople there, you know.
Right. That's nuts. Yeah. It's like 10 crack commandments from
the 10 crack commandments,
Smalls, right?
For sure.
Like,
I mean, honestly, a lot of drug addicts, if they're not financially successful, they're living their dreams if they're in recovery, because we have this ability that we obsess about something. That's what makes addiction. It's like obsession. Yeah. You know, obsession and compulsion. Yeah. You can't be good at anything without obsessing and compulsing over it. Yeah. Like, dude, you think Michael Jordan like leisurely plays basketball? No, but he's obsessed. Yeah. You know, so for addicts, a lot of us, we use this obsessive ADHD thing to really achieve our goals. Yeah. And sometimes it could be unhealthy. You know, sometimes addicts will overwork. That's why going to meetings is so important, because if I'm not going to meetings, I might be doing things that I think are healthy and they're leading me to get high. Yeah. I could work so hard that I get high. I could do charity so much where it drives me crazy and I'm resentful because the people I donated money to don't appreciate it. And now I'm doing charity and it's putting me in a corner where I'm angry, alone, resentful, and want to use. So it's like recovery is that thing that always keeps an addict like centered to not use and centered in gratitude, because I don't care what's going on in your life. Like if you want to be happy, gratitude is the key to that, because you can't be grateful and unhappy, you know?
That's for sure. That's for sure. And you've also pushed your body to some like crazy physical.
You know? I used to do crazy stuff. Like not like I suck now. I've been like so lazy.
I remember, dude, when you biked 100 miles and you put it all on Instagram. It was like, would you start at midnight or 10 o'clock?
So I worked that day, got home at like 3, started biking at 5.
5 a.m.
5 p.m.
5 p.m. Okay.
So at 5 p.m., I'm biking and I'm like making a story. I was going to do like 40 miles. I did 40. Someone was like, you won't do 70. Yeah. You know, I was like, I'll do 70. And then I'm like biking and it's getting dark. And I'm like, damn. And I was like, I need to get some food. So I got some food. That. And then, bro, someone was like, you should do a century. I'm like, what the hell is a century? He's like, it's 100 miles. Yeah. Mind you, I'm on a mountain bike, which is so much different than a road bike.
So hard.
So I'm like, whatever. So I'm like, I could do 100. I'm already at like 40 or 50. Dude, at 70 miles, I collapsed. This is also like in December. It's freezing. And I remember I collapsed on the side of the road. And dude, I live like probably 70 miles away. I'm so far. I'm like in Boca. And I'm like, do I call an Uber? Mind you, I was sweating all day and it got cold. So I'm freezing. And I remember I literally collapse and fall off my bike.
Shit.
And I remember being there and just being like, dude, it's only 30 more miles, but I can't go one more step. Yeah. Like, I'm just going to have to go home. Yeah. At this time, it's probably like midnight. And I remember thinking, like, I read that David Goggins book, And he said, when you're totally done, you're at 30%.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, I guess this is 30%.
Yeah.
And I get back on my bike and I'm like, okay, there's a 7-Eleven. I'm over on by the commercial. I don't think like, all right, there's a 7-Eleven on commercial. I got one more like little bridge to go over. Once I go over that bridge, I could turn left on commercial. There's a 7-Eleven and I'm gonna get a 7-Eleven pizza. Mm-hmm. And I remember just being like, I'm gonna make it there.
Yeah.
Dude, I was so cold. I was freezing my ass off. Going over this little hill bridge, I was dying. And I finally made it to 7-Eleven. Dude, I would love for a video of how I came off my bike. I like flung off of it. The bike fell on the ground. I ran inside. Dude, I'm like shaking and shivering. And I remember I get this pizza and I get like this protein cookie and I get like a water and I'm drinking it outside and I'm sitting on the ground. A homeless guy comes over and he goes, hey man, you don't look so good. And I was like, okay. And he's like, he's like, I'm staying at La Quinta. I got a room tonight if you want to stay there. And I was like, no, I'm good, bro.
You're like an 8-figure entrepreneur.
I'm like, I'm good, bro. So I get back on the bike and bro, when I finished it, I got to my house. I had like 3 more miles to go. Yeah. So I had to do like a little circle. I didn't get done till 5 in the morning, maybe 6 in the morning. It was literally like 12 hours. Yeah. At 10 miles per hour, which is like so slow. But dude, 100 miles, I was dead. But I think the worst feeling ever was probably when I ran a 26.2 marathon. That to me was probably like...
That's crazy. I've never done that. I did the 100 miles. After I saw you do it, you inspired me to do it.
On a mountain bike?
I did on a mountain bike.
It's tough, right? How many hours? 10?
It was about 12 hours,
12
too.
Hours. It's like 10,
I went from
hours.
Weston to South Beach and back.
Wow.
But it was during the day, and it was on, like, Christmas Eve. I'm Jewish. So,
wow.
So it was, like, Christmas Eve or Christmas Day.
Have you biked far before?
Yeah, I was doing, like, 20, 30 miles.
Okay. Me, too. I was doing, like, 20, 30 miles.
20, 30, maybe 40, 50 on a crazy day. But I never did the 100.
How did you feel after?
Dude, I felt great, but I was prepared. Not like you. Yeah. Like I did some research. I got those like little carb packets, right? Where it's like a bunch of sugar. I stopped at Sunny Isles. My girlfriend at the time like made me a sandwich that I ate. So I felt fine. I wasn't at your level, but that sucked, bro. And after that, I didn't get on a bike for like a month.
I know. I just started biking again. I didn't bike for years. I used to bike all the time. And after that century, I was like, oh, dude.
Dude, it was brutal. Yeah, I have my Specialized bike here, dude. I rode that thing like 2 or 3 times, but I want to get back into it. I was telling him earlier today. I got to get back into it.
Yeah, man. I mean, fitness is, I was talking to someone the other day. It's like there's so many fitness people now that are like big on social media.
Yeah.
But like, for addicts, especially people like me who like grew up with super low self-esteem. Yeah. One of the most amazing things that I ever did. So mind you, when I got clean, I started obsessively working out. Dude, I had abs at a year clean. Wow. I was always in sick shape in my 20s. Yeah. And the gym was such an identity for me that like I couldn't even imagine being overweight. Like that would never happen to me. And when I started my business, I remember thinking like, I need to sacrifice something. So I remember I said, I'm not going to work out until I'm a millionaire. Like I'm not working out. I gave up working out.
Holy shit.
Until this company is like
successful.
Did it take? You know, probably like a year and a half.
And you weren't working out?
No, dude. I got got fat as hell. I was eating ice cream in the morning.
Oh God.
And when this happened, I had came to this realization. So I remember seeing this girl post something on Instagram prior to that. So I was already like thinking about stuff like this. She posted, I don't work out because I hate my body. I work out because I love my body. And I was like, man, I work out because I hate my body. Like I work out because I look at myself. I'm like, I'm ugly. Yeah. Like I still have this low self-esteem, body dysmorphia. I remember when I was in my early 20s, I would do 30 minutes of cardio, work out for 2 hours, drive home. On the drive home, I'd be pinching my belly fat. And I'd be like, And I would pull over and go run in the parking lot.
Holy shit.
So I was like obsessed about it, you know? Yeah. And I remember
let's unplug that, Alexa.
When I had like 5 years, maybe like 6 years, I was at GNC and there's this big black dude working. And I walk in and I'm talking to him about stuff and I'm about to ask him questions. And this skinny little blonde girl comes in. She's like, hey, can I ask you something? He's like, what's up? And she's like, how do I get rid of this? And he goes, bitch, that's your kidney. And I remember thinking like, wow, That's me.
Yeah.
I'm over here like, bro, 8% body fat.
Yeah.
Like, how do I get rid of, I want to be leaner.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, and it's like, I would look at myself and want to be leaner.
Yeah.
I would look at the magazines and be like, I want to look like these people. And when I sold my company, bro, I got stretch marks. I still have stretch marks still today from how much weight I gained so fast.
Damn.
And I remember I was fat and I loved every inch of my body. Like I was chubby. I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
I was like, look how fat I got.
Yeah.
I thought people would be like, oh my God, Bryan Alzate got fat. And I would think it was funny. Before I'd be like, oh my God, I got to start. I didn't care. Like I actually thought it was cool. I started dating, like, it's crazy how, like, the law of attraction work. I started dating this drop dead gorgeous stripper. And dude, she was the one who really pushed me. She was like, I don't want no guy with abs. She was like, you ever see gay porn? They all have abs. She was like, I don't want a guy with abs. She's like, that's gross. I don't want no flat stomach hitting me. She's like, I want a big ass dude. I was like, really? She's like, hell yeah, I want a big dude with a belly. I was like, damn, with a belly? Bro, I remember I started gaining so much weight and she was going crazy. She was like, oh my God, I love your belly. So like, to me, like, yeah, I've been super fit before, but it's also like, when I do gain weight, I'm still happy and love my body.
Yeah.
Dude, this is a short trip. Like, we're going to be wrinkly and old soon.
That's true.
It's like, bro, if you don't love your body now, what the fuck are you going to say when you're 80?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, dude, you're going to be 90 wishing you were fucking in your mid 30s.
That's true.
So it's like, when I hear people are like, oh, I hate that I'm turning 33. I'm like, dude, when you're 43, you're going to wish you were 33. Mm-hmm. When you're 53, you die to be where you are now. So it's like, if you're not happy with what you got now,
yeah,
it's crazy to me. But I was like that for so long.
Yeah.
And
do you feel like you got a second chance at life?
10 million.
Yeah.
I should have died 100 times, bro. I'm like a cat. Like,
That's
like.
Is that why you have so many cats?
I love cats. But it's like, bro, like, dude, I was the laughing stock of my high school.
Yeah.
Like the laughing stock of my neighborhood. People would be like, holy fuck, dude, I saw Bryan at the gas station. He's fucking asking for money. Like at 16,
Holy
like
shit.
I just like was such an anomaly. Like no one was smoking crack at 14.
No.
I was smoking crack at 14. Bro, the kids in my school were like, what? Like,
what school did you go to, by the way?
Western.
Yeah,
I went to
you
Western.
went to a decent
I went
school.
to like a normal school,
Yeah,
bro. People were like, bro, I was snorting coke in the middle of class in middle school.
Oh my God.
Dude, I have people come up to me today and be like, yo, you're the first person I've ever seen coke. 7th grade computer class. I'm like, yeah. So
shit.
It's like, dude, to me, like just if I was clean and I worked at a regular job at Starbucks, I would still be like, I cannot believe they let me work here.
Yeah.
Like, I can't believe they let me make the coffee.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I still kind of feel like that. So like I just bought a Cullinan. So
congrats, bro. That's
excited.
awesome.
And like, dude,
when'd you get it?
I get it Monday.
But when did you buy it? Today?
So I did the finance paperwork yesterday, but then Monday I'll go to the bank.
Nice. Congrats.
Yeah, did I tell you I was getting it?
You told me you wanted to buy a Rolls Royce.
Yeah, I was going to get the Ghost. So I got the Cullinan. And
That's awesome. Congrats.
Thank you. And I remember like buying the Cullinan is cool, but like, bro, I remember when I had like a couple years, like the Cullinan's still cool because it's to me it's funny, like that like someone like retarded like I don't know the month sometimes, like I don't know what year it is, like someone like me could be successful, from just working hard and like having good connection and people trusting in him, but at the same time it's like, bro, I'll never forget, bro, I had a year clean. And I went to go pick up my check from Barney's, New York. And I went to go pick up my check. The lady handed me my check. I went to go pull it in my wallet. I had my other check from 2 weeks ago in there. I hysterically started crying. And she was like, what's going on? I was like, hysterically crying. I was like, I've never had 2 checks before.
That's crazy.
Because, bro, when I was using, I would beg my employer to give me the check on Thursday. I'd be like, bro, I know you print the checks on Thursday. He'd be like, bro, calm down. I'm not giving you your check. And I'd be like, please, I need it. And he's like, bro, if I give you this check, you can't cash it till tomorrow. I'm like, for sure. I would go to Publix immediately. I didn't even know that's weird. Like, people have bank accounts where they deposit money. I would go right to Publix and I would cash my check and go get drugs. Wow. I've never, ever had money from the week before. I don't
Yeah.
even know what the fuck that is.
Yeah.
You know? And I remember, like, to me, like, the colon and all that stuff is cool, but, like, I couldn't even imagine
Yeah.
being off crack,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And like, it's not that you get numb to it, but now that's like your normal life, right?
Also, I get cars with 0 down. So it's not like
Yeah.
a big purchase to me. You know,
Right.
like, yeah, my monthly expenses go up a little bit, but when you make a certain amount of money, like, dude, a colon and it's like $4,000.
Yeah.
So it's like, I know that's a lot of money, but I probably spend $4,000 on other stuff that I can't even tell you what it is.
Right.
You know? And it's
Right.
like, to me, that's not that big deal.
Right.
And it's like, bro, I'm paying first and last payment.
Yeah.
And like, it's not like a big purchase. Like when I bought my Ferrari, like I had to put like a chunk down. So it felt more of like a purchase.
Yeah.
But when you buy a $360,000 car, a lot of people don't put a lot of money down because they could have their money tied up in other things that are going to make them more money.
Yeah.
They want to put down as least as possible. Or you're getting some shitty ass interest rate. If you buy the car right, like, dude, my car, I bought a pretty solid one, so I don't think I'm going to lose my ass on it at all because they've held their value. So it's like, dude, there's someone right now who's going to buy a brand new C-Class who's going to lose more money than I am.
Right.
You know?
Because they're not
so
buying
it's
it
like,
right
I don't really feel like it's a cool flex because it's hard to like buy. It's hard to have that much credit.
Yeah.
You know, like I tell people all the time, like, dude, having credit's fire, you know?
Yeah, it is.
And it's not necessarily like people think like, oh, I have an 800 credit score. Yeah, but you've been borrowing $600.
Yeah.
So it's like sometimes my credit score is dog shit. I think my credit score right now is like 680, but my card credit is like insane.
Right.
Not insane, but for me,
Right. They
you know,
see your
oh,
prior
dude, this guy's
purchases.
had 30 cars over $200,000. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. And also, like, it kind of goes to the fact of, like, you realize that there's, like, you love your cars, but you know there's more important shit to life than
Bro, do you remember
just
when I
cars,
sold
man.
all my cars and drove a Prius?
Yeah, I remember. You told me
Yeah,
about
yeah.
that. Like,
I guess I just do this. At one point, I was obsessed with my cars, and bro, I had 4 cars. This is when I had the SLS, the F8, and the truck, and the S-Class.
during
And-
COVID, right?
During COVID. And I remember the F8 was in the shop for like brakes or some shit. The SLS was getting wrapped. My truck, the steering was all fucked up. And then my SLS, the screen was out at the same time.
Jeez.
I was Ubering with 4 cars.
Oh, my God.
And I remember being like, fuck all these cars. And they were up on COVID. And I was also in the middle of like selling a business. And I remember being like, dude, I'm driving a Prius till this business fucking sells. And dude, I drove the Prius for like 6 months. And bro, I would go on dates. Bro, I'll never forget. I went on a date with this girl who like thinks I have money. Like we've talked about stuff before. Like she sees like my cars or stuff. And like, dude, I picked her up in the Prius. She didn't say a fucking word about it.
Right.
She was like, hey, what's up? She got
Like,
in
it
the
was totally
car.
normal.
We went to lunch. Like hung out. It was like a normal day.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I did everything with it.
Right.
Like it was,
Right.
it got me from A to B. Not one person was like, what? I guess some people were like, why the fuck are you driving a Prius? But like, it didn't hinder my life at all. Like I
Right.
didn't lose a business sale or anything.
No.
Like it was cool because it's kind of like having a car that it feels different when you're in it. When you're in a luxury car, there's this feeling of like, oh, everything's nice in here. It's like it felt like you could take your shoes off and fucking
You do whatever.
relax in it. Like it felt real. Bro, I hit my mailbox. It was all dented. I just didn't care. I was
Screw
like,
it.
thank God. Dude, you know?
That's crazy, man. Now the rehab clinics, right? You were doing that. You started that what year again?
I was 25. This is 2016.
2016. So 8 years in, right?
Yeah.
Now have you since sold that company?
Yeah,
You're
so,
part of it?
So I've sold my part in that company, and dude, like my mentor, like this guy, bro, he's also in recovery. Dude, he sold his first business for 75 million, sold his second business for 125 million.
Wow. What kind of businesses were those?
Drug rehabs,
Okay.
and billing companies and stuff like that.
Wow.
And I remember when he sold his company for like 125, I think at the end of it, he got like 15 or something like that. And he had already made millions on a whole bunch of other shit, you know?
Yeah.
But at the end of it, he was getting like 15. And I remember we were at the casino, and I was like, you about to get paid, you know? like, yo. And he was just like, I'll never forget, but he looked at me and he pulled the slot machine. He's like, it's 15. It's not like it's 50. And I remember being like, bro, I couldn't pay. I was like, I was looking at the money. He was putting my like life savings into the machine,
Every
you know? And I'm
every
just
spin.
like, no, dude, you do not like what is wrong with you, bro?
Yeah.
And I remember when I sold my company, I was thinking the same thing, like, oh, I got this, but it's not that. And it's like when you have a number in your mind that you think you're gonna get for all these years, and you get like a quarter of it.
Yeah.
It's like it's weird because it's like it is a lot of money, but when you think that you've been thinking you're gonna get so much at one point,
Yeah.
and then it's like once you already have some money, more money doesn't change your life.
Right. Now, talking about that, what do you think those levels are, in your opinion?
So honestly, like there needs to be like a new word for millionaire, because having 1 million is very different than having like 16.
Yeah.
And having 16 is very different from having like 45.
Right.
And having 45 is very different from like 300.
Right.
And like 300 and a billion are not even in the same room. You know?
Of course.
But you could do the same thing.
Yeah.
So it's like, bro, if you have 40 million, you could do the same thing the billionaire does.
You think so?
There's nothing else you can do other than like start like a NASA company and go to the moon. Like, bro, people that are billionaires, that's what they do. They go to the moon.
Yeah, they start doing crazy shit.
Like, but you could be in their inner circle and go to the moon.
Yeah.
You know, you probably could do stuff like that. But
Yeah.
like, there's at like 15, 30 million, you could look like you have hundreds of millions.
Yeah.
There's nothing else to do on earth.
Yeah.
You could buy a house. You could buy a couple watches. You could buy a bunch of cars. And it's like, dude, you don't need that much money to do that.
Yeah.
And I remember I was at this Tony Robbins convention. I did like this Tony Robbins thing. And this guy was like, how much money do you want to make? This kid was like, I want to make $1 billion. He's like, what would you do with that? He's like, dude, I'll get a private island. He's like, and what else? He's like, I'd get a fucking jet. He's like, what else would you get? He's like, a big ass house. The guy's like, you could probably do that with like 6 million. You know, it's like a lot of times we think that we need like all this to do this.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, you could probably, I have a friend right now, he just bought a Huracan and he's so excited. And I was like, bro, I know you're excited, but with the money you've been making, you could have bought a Huracan 10 years ago.
Yeah.
People their mind is just like, oh, that's a lot of money. Did you even try?
Yeah.
I don't know if I would get, did you try to get financed?
Yeah.
Bro, when he first applied, they're like, oh, they told me 80 grand. I'm not going to get it. I was like, no, dude, you go ask somebody else. Go ask somebody else.
Yeah.
They'll beat that.
Yeah.
Go ask bro, you have tax returns. You have good tax returns.
Yeah.
You've had a nicer car, you know? Dude, he ended up getting, I think, like 20 grand down or something.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, you know, a lot of times people think that they can't do something or that they need to be so rich to do something, but they don't even try. And it's like, dude, you could just do that. Dude,
Yeah.
my close friend bought a jet. And I remember when he bought a jet, me and my friends were like, bro, he ain't that rich to be buying jets. You know, like he blowing all of his money. Like,
That's crazy.
He makes money, but not jet money.
Yeah.
Turns out, bro, I didn't know. Donald Trump has this thing that he signed when he was the president where you could write off the entire amount of your jet up to like $1.4 million or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So he went and bought a $1.4 million jet. Then he like splits it with like 2 other people and they get to fly it. He ends up making like 200-300 grand with the jet.
It's crazy.
And I was like, damn, you know, but it's like a lot of times you think that like buying this supercar or whatever, it's like, bro, there are people that they're losing more money on buying sneakers.
Yeah.
They're losing more money on like dumb other shit.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And you realize how attainable those things are.
It's
That's
not
like
as far as you think.
Yeah.
Usually it's like you think it's so far, even in business.
Yeah.
Bro, when people are saying pro rata and EBITDA,
Yeah.
and like, I was like,
Yeah.
and then I just Googled it and now I know what they mean.
Right.
And now I'm like, I know what it means.
Yeah,
like now it's like
Yeah.
like you like, bro, when someone else is saying stuff that you don't understand, you think that like this guy's so much smarter than you. You
Yeah.
probably just learned EBITDA last week.
That's
you know?
it. Yeah. That's why he's talking about it so much.
So it's like exactly. So it's like, you know, oftentimes like people aren't superhuman or that
Yeah.
far from you, you know. And bro, honestly, reading, bro, when you read it, like it's so crazy how many people ask people how to be successful.
Right.
Because I'm like, bro, it's 2024. You don't think that motherfuckers done wrote books about this shit?
Yeah.
You think you could go read Warren Buffett's book right now? You think Warren Buffett's like, let me make a book and leave out all the secrets. You know, you think fucking Grant Cardone, like, I mean, whether you like him or not, like, dude, he has books about success in real estate.
Yeah.
And like, dude, there's a million books about finance. Like Tony Robbins has books. You want to learn about like,
do you have like top 3 books?
Oh, 1000%.
Personal? Relentlessness by Tim Grover.
Hands down, best motivational book ever. Second would probably be Jesse Itzler.
Living with a Navy SEAL?
Living with a Navy SEAL is so fucking good.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Tim Kennedy's Scars and Stripes.
I never heard of that.
Tim Kennedy's, you know what Tim Kennedy is? Tim Kennedy is MMA fighter.
No, I don't know who he is.
EMT, police officer, Navy SEAL Ranger.
He's like a David Goggins almost.
Black belt jiu-jitsu. Yeah, he's like
Tim Kennedy, Stars and Stripes.
Dude, his book is incredible.
Awesome. I'm ordering it right now as we speak.
Yeah, his book is so good. Jocko Willick's, you know what I'm talking about.
I have his book. Yeah, I haven't read it yet.
What's it called?
With the
Extreme
orange.
Ownership.
Yeah.
Extreme
Ownership. Yes.
Extreme Ownership is his first book. I think.
Yes.
Incredible. Dude, you know whose book was so fucking good? Will Smith's book.
Really? I haven't read it.
Will Smith's book is so good when you read it. I have like such an appreciation for his book because, bro, he put stuff in there that doesn't make him look great. Same with Tim Kennedy. Like sometimes I no offense to Rick Ross, I read Rick Ross's book and there's just like nothing in there that was like shocking or humbling or like, you know, you read someone's book, you want to hear about like the nitty gritty. You want to hear about the stuff that you never even thought would happen in his life. And he's got to have trials and tribulations of betrayal and all types of trauma and stuff. And I just didn't vibe with his book. But 50 Cent's book, Hustle Harder is so good. It's such a good book. Oh, man. Hustle Hard. Is it Hustle Harder or Hustle Hard?
Have you ever thought about writing a book?
Yeah. I'm about to put it online right now. Yeah.
Oh, really?
I'm putting my book out right now. So.
Oh, it's done?
So I published my diaries. So I've been keeping a diary since I've been clean.
No way.
So I have 16 years of diary entries.
Every day? You diary?
I diaried every day for like 5-6 years.
Wow.
Now I do it like sporadically. But dude, I have maybe like 25 composition books and like 3 giant Microsoft Word. I've finished Microsoft Word. So when you open a Microsoft Word document, I've gotten so far where it's like when you open it, like it crashes.
It just gets confused.
Yeah, it's just like.
Did you give it to a ghostwriter?
No.
Right?
No. So I published my first year on the internet when I was doing motorcycles. And bro, it got pretty popular. I have a friend who works for me now, one of my other businesses, and he's in recovery now. And he was like, bro, when I was on heroin, I used to read your diaries all the time.
Holy shit.
So, you know, it's I took them off the internet because, bro, it's so graphic. And like, honestly, it's like when I read my own entries, they like make me so uncomfortable. There's like so much sick humor and like, when I got clean, like I did things that like weren't funny.
Yeah.
But they were just like inappropriate. Like when I read it, I'm like, dude, this kid is so.
So you literally took your diary entries, published them into a book without editing them, nothing, like straight up.
No, I would change like people, places, and things.
Okay.
And I would change like, there are times where I would talk about a story, and I wouldn't go into the whole story. I'd be like, oh, this reminds me about like that time me and so were in that hotel room, that girl was shooting up on the bed. And I might talk a little bit out in my diary.
Yeah.
But then in the book, it's in italics. So anything in italics is like a flashback of like back then, you know? So
you really made yourself very vulnerable.
Yeah, bro. And then like, dude, when I started like thinking about being a business owner, I'm like, I don't want this on the internet.
Yeah.
Because it's like a little like, dude, also when I was 25 owning a treatment center, people thought I was a joke. So I wanted to be taken. I deleted my meme account. You know, I wanted to be taken seriously.
Yeah, that's nuts. And now,
but another book before I forget is Russ's book.
I know it. The short one.
Yeah, bro, it's so good.
I have it.
So
I
good.
believe I have it.
I heard he came out a new book that's also good. I'm not like
he makes great music.
In love with his. I like his music.
His older music. I haven't heard his newer stuff.
I like his new stuff. Probably really good, but. His book was so good. I'm telling you, that might be like top 5.
I'll check it out for sure. And now since you've sold the business, when was that, by the way?
About a year ago.
A year ago. What have you been doing for a year?
My main thing now is my book. So my book is like what I'm focusing all my energy on. And like honestly, like, it's not even to make money. Like I just want it out there because I do think it will help people.
Yeah.
And I think the book will be like my next thing that I really focus on because I love the podcast. And dude, like I was showing, like, dude, the Hell Has an Exit podcast was in the top 1% at one point.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. I was like, yeah. When I saw it, I was like,
nuts.
because it sounded weird when I said it. I'm like, I don't know, we're in the top 1%. That's pretty popular for a podcast.
Yeah, extremely. And I saw some stat that was like, if you hit 20 episodes, you're in the top like 20%, right? Like people quit so early.
Dude, I did
You know, so you just-
168 episodes.
That's nuts.
So it's like one thing about me, bro, is I'm just like resilient. So
Yeah.
it's like I have an ability to, honestly, that's what like staying clean is about. It's like, bro, I wake up and I go to a meeting, whether I want to or I don't.
Right.
It's just like the gym.
Right.
Bro, you go to the gym when you want to go and you go when you don't want to go. You go when it's
100%.
raining, you go when it's convenient, you go when it's inconvenient.
Yeah.
You just go to the gym. And like once you become someone who just goes to the gym, and it's like, bro, if you eat good, you just fucking eat good.
Yeah.
You know, it's like that's just
100%.
part of
It's part of your identity, as you were saying earlier.
When I go out, like 50 Cent talks about his book too. He's like, dude, I go out, I have a steak and broccoli and maybe asparagus.
Really?
He's like, I eat that every single day. I don't care about anything else. He's crazy, bro. His book is so good because he talks about his failures, dude. He talks about so many failures, so many people he tried to help that did him dirty.
Humanizes it,
Yeah,
right?
he's like, for sure.
Yeah.
He talks about his last book sucked. He's like,
Really?
dude, this last book I did with Robert Greene, The 50th Law.
Oh,
he's
yeah.
like, oh, he's like, don't buy that, but it's so horrible.
I got to read that book. I got to read it for sure. And your book, when do you think that's going to be ready?
Dude, I'm hoping in like 2 weeks. When does this
wow.
podcast air?
This will air in a week from today.
I'll try to have it by then.
That'll be awesome.
Yeah.
We'll link that for sure. Now, with society that's like really, I don't know if they idolize it, but they flex it so much. Like they flex the bottles, they flex the alcohol, they flex the weed. Is it hard for you to like stay clean?
No, dude.
No?
No, dude, because to me, I went out with my attorney once and we went to a club and everyone was drinking and we went home. And when I saw him next, he's like, bro, I cannot. He's like, I knew you were in recovery, but when I saw you out and everyone was drinking around you and you were just drinking water, he's like, I commend you so much.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bro, that's not the hard part. The hard part is when I'm driving off Biscayne and I go up to the red light and there's a homeless guy there and I know he has crack. I was like, that's the shit that I'm like, dude, just keep looking straight.
That's crazy.
So it's like, dude, with years clean, being at a red light at 2 a.m. in a shady neighborhood with $6,000 in my pocket, I don't want to make eye contact with the homeless people.
Really? That you still feel that till this day?
1,000. I think about smoking crack and shooting heroin every day.
Holy shit. I
know that's crazy, but I swear I was dating this girl and I remember she was like, do you think about it? I'm like, every day. She was like, what? I'm like, dude, I don't know why. I don't know if that's good or bad or what, but I have never shot heroin. And when I was using, I was trying to my last couple months. Like, dude, I was telling people like, bro, we could be shooting this up. And people were like, bro, get out of my car. You know, like I'm not shooting anything up. And I remember I just needed to. I was like, I heard it so much better. I like researched it. You can't buy needles over the counter in Broward, but you could buy them over the counter in Boca. So we go to Boca and get them. I didn't have a car, so I couldn't get to Boca. But I remember my friend was doing heroin and I got him heroin. And I remember I was like, I'm going to shoot up today. And he refused to shoot me up. And I remember just being so mad. And I remember he's like, you don't just wake up one day and shoot heroin. I'm like, of course, that's exactly how it happens. And he refused to shoot me up. And like a month later, I got clean.
That's crazy.
And all of my friends who weren't IV addicts all became IV addicts. All of them. All my friends who
IV addict?
like shooting needles.
Got you.
So all of these kids who used to tell me they're never going to shoot up and I'm crazy for wanting to,
Yeah.
I saw them all become drug addicts, like IV and, heroin addicts. And my first year clean, I felt like I had missed out on this drug. Like I needed to do it. Yeah. It's kind of like being in a relationship and you've never had a threesome. And you're kind of like, damn, I'm married now, but I've never been with 2 girls before. Yeah. What's that? Am I just going to miss that boat forever? Yeah. So can you relate or something?
That's funny.
So it's like, I was clean and I wanted to be clean, but I just felt like I needed to try shooting heroin. Yeah. And dude, my first year clean, I would wake up and I'd be mumbling, shoot heroin,
Holy shit.
and I would be thinking about shooting heroin, and I'd be having drug dreams. I
Oh my
had drug
God.
dreams where me and my dad are shooting heroin up together, and this
Oh
is
my
how we're like
God, that's
friends,
crazy.
like, and then like I just obsessed about it so much, and I think about it, but it's like a fleeting thought.
Yeah.
But it probably crosses my mind every day.
That's nuts. Do you realize what a big advantage you have over people because you don't drink alcohol and like
It's not just that. I don't party. So I didn't start partying until I had like 8 years clean, 9 years clean.
Yeah.
And what I mean by partying, I mean like go to the strip club for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Like I don't go to regular clubs because I don't drink. And when you're at a regular club,
you're sober?
dude, I'm
it's
so
horrible.
bored.
Yeah.
30 minutes, I get sleepy.
Yeah.
I swear. I'll go to a club at 11:30. On the way there, I'm like, dude, I'm sleepy.
Yeah,
Like
of
I'll turn
course.
into like a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want cookies. I want to go home. You
Yeah,
know?
and I'm asking that because I remember when I did 75 hard, dude. I stopped drinking for
Yeah.
like 3 months. Dude, I was a machine. Like my mind functioned so much
Oh,
better.
it's crazy because there's no lag. So
Yeah.
usually if you're drinking, it sets you back days and you need to adjust and you got to get back into grind mode. And then it's just like this constant back and forth.
Correct.
When you're not going out and partying and you're not drinking and doing drugs or whatever, it's just, you just lap people. And
You do.
it's just like you're so much more productive. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And when I got clean, I remember like my childhood friends and looking at their Instagram, and they'd be at what's that bar in Las Olas that everyone goes?
Sway.
No, that's like a bar, American Social.
Oh, okay,
So I
yeah.
remember like everybody was at American Social, and people would invite me, and I refused to go. And I remember I would look at their social media, and they'd be on boats or whatever, and I remember being like, dude, I don't want to party until I could pull up in a Lambo. Like I don't want to go out until I could pull up in like a giant ass boat that I own, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember like there's multiple times where like people are inviting me to like American Social, and one, I don't drink and I hate clubs,
Right.
so I don't really want to go. But I just had like this pride of like I'm not gonna go until I could pull up in an exotic car.
Yeah.
And I went once and I pulled up an exotic car. No one cared, you know.
Yeah, no one cares.
No one was like, it's not like what you think in your mind,
Right.
where like the paparazzi comes out and everyone's like slow motion taking pictures
Right.
of you getting out of your car.
Right.
It's like one fucking dude at the bar is like, oh, sick car.
It's a car
You
guy.
know?
Yeah,
It's a
exactly.
car. It's a dude talking
Yeah.
to you about it. I've never once gotten a girl because of my car. I've never been at a red light and some girl's been like, hey, you want my number?
Yeah.
Like,
people were like when I got the Lambo, people were like, oh, you're probably picking up so many girls in it. And I'm
No,
like,
it's dudes.
dude, not really. I just I really like the car,
I
bro.
know.
Like, I did not get it for girls.
It doesn't work that way at all. And
doesn't.
It's like, man, but I remember, even like at my high school reunion,
Yeah.
dude, I probably smoked crack in my high school 100 times.
Mm-hmm.
And like, dude, snorting pills. And like, dude, everyone was like, people used to get up and go run to security and be like, dude, this kid's snorting pills next to me. I don't know what to do. And I would keep my pills in my waistband. I'd cut a hole in my boxers and tuck it into my waistband. They would search me and be like, there's nothing on it. And dude,
shit.
2 days later, they'd be like, he's doing it again. And they'd run out there, but they could never catch me until they did once.
That's
but I
crazy.
remember like, I was such a loser and like such a toxic, sick individual that like, when I went to my high school reunion, I was 27 and I had a McLaren. And it was like, it was cool because I had been such a loser in high
Right.
school. And it wasn't like a look at me now type of thing. It was just like, wow, it's really crazy what happens when you focus.
Yeah, you turned your life around.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I think that's a great note to end it on.
Hey, thank you.
Well, thank you, Bryan. You guys got to check him out on social media. It's Teddy Tarantino. Book is dropping soon. Check out his podcast, Hell Has an Exit. Some crazy guests he had on there. You guys will see it on his show. But thank you again for coming, man. I really appreciate it. I think that was a great story.
Thank
And I think it's really going to inspire a lot of people and hopefully help someone. If it helps one person, I think we did a great job.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Thank you, man.
Appreciate you.